Your resilience and how you actually get through the downtimes is what creates your character. Can you knowingly overcome adversity? That's the important thing.
So this was the barbershop. Did you ever come in here when it was a barbershop?
No.
Yeah, so this was the barbershop. So we redid this part, and so the drop ceiling was like this all the way. So we didn't know the ceilings went all the way.
Right. So cool. So what are you doing back there?
That's gonna be like office space.
Oh.
Like that's gonna be Sam's office, and then like all the editing stuff will go back there.
So you stole extra height there, but not here. Why?
Well, we were doing this. This was the actual barbershop. So like we were like, oh, this would be perfect. That was the waiting room of the barbershop. So like we kept this, and then you need to to record you actually kind of want the drop ceiling because you don't need an extra 10 feet above you for sound reasons.
Sure.
So this is just this.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know this was here. This is awesome.
Yeah, they built the 3 buildings at the same time. And so the bookstore and the record store were connected, and then this was separate, and then it went for sale like during the pandemic. So we got it. But the sad / cool thing about it is this was a barbershop since it opened, like in the 1800s.
Wow, it's old school.
And then the guy, John, who was the last person, I was talking to him, I came in here and I was like, this is like right when I bought it. And he was like, oh yeah. I was like, you can stay as long as you want. That was like the condition of buying it from the people, the family that had owned it for a long time. They were like, you have to keep John in here as long as he wants. And I was like, okay. And so I was talking to John about it, and he was like, I did all the renovations myself. And like, it was like,
janky.
Yeah, it was really starting to fall apart. And I was like, oh, when did you do that? And he's like, oh, when I moved in 1969. Whoa. So he'd been here 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
So you have to offer haircuts.
Yes.
Like at least by appointment only, something.
He was the nicest guy. He cut my hair a couple times. He cut my kids' hair a couple times. And then one time I walked by and I saw him at his like desk or whatever, and he was reading a magazine with a magnifying glass. And I was like, might be time.
I feel that though.
Yeah.
You need glasses at all?
Sometimes, probably.
I just got glasses recently.
Yeah.
So
this was like a Mr. Magoo level magnifying glass to read a magazine. And then he's like, I come near your head with sharp scissors or a razor. So he was the best though. He was really nice. And then like when they're doing the renovation, they found a license plate. I don't know where it is, but they found a license plate from 1930.
So cool.
The other crazy thing, this is like only a Bastrop thing, which is like the original survey was like, it's called the Miller survey, right? That's like the survey they did when they plotted out the lawn for the first time, and we bought it from the Miller family. So it'd been in the same family the whole time. It's nuts.
So I really love just bringing forth the old history.
Yeah.
And there's so much of it on our land. We have, the legend was that there was an old whiskey sill.
Probably.
And there were, we have springs on our land. So they used to use the spring water to distill the whiskey. And so we were doing some renovations, restoration, I should say, on the springs. And we ended up uncovering this old whiskey sill, like this copper, basically a cauldron. And so I want to restore it and start making whiskey on the land.
That's amazing.
It's such a cool story, right?
Yeah, my neighbor has a cistern on his property. You know what that is? Like a giant, it's like you dig a giant pit and then you line it with bricks and you store water in it.
Yep.
Because it was a way stop on the El Camino Real.
Yeah. You're
just like, it's obviously, the United States doesn't feel very old, but then there are parts of it that are quite old. Like Chestnut in Bastrop, which is like this street right over here. That is the King's Highway. Not like the English king, like the Spanish king.
Oh, the Spanish king, right.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. That makes sense.
You know what the Six Flags are, right?
Yes, it's the different flags that settled here.
Yeah, that were Texas wasn't like, first off, Texas is the only state that was its own country, or other than Hawaii, I guess. But like, it wasn't like, oh, it just went back a ways. It was like Spanish, French, English, is it English? Spanish, French, Mexican. You're just like, there's a lot of history.
And then
Texas is
Confederate.
Confederate is unfortunately one of the like
they might want to, modify
maybe just 5 flags. Yeah.
Maybe add a rainbow flag and then call it a day.
That's probably the flag they don't want to add.
I really, I don't want to lose the history.
Sure.
And I want to spend some time interviewing the people who've lived on my land.
Have you found some?
Yeah. So I've been in communications, especially because it's like, hey, where's the septic? And they're like, oh, I don't remember, So even just to uncover some of the infrastructure, it's important to stay in touch. But then also, what was the land like? Because it's changing so much. There's so many tract housing and development and suburbia coming in that all of that history is going to get lost. I know of springs that they bulldozed and just buried to build houses.
Yeah.
And so in an effort to preserve the land, the natural topography, and then to know what the land was and what it meant to people, I want to start actually documenting that.
Have you seen right up the road on 969, there's where they crossed the river before there were bridges, the ferry. There's the... I forget what it's called. There's it's butts next to a mobile home park, but there was, until they could use iron to build bridges, they couldn't bridge the Colorado River. And so up until the 30s, the old bridge that they have right down, I guess right there, is they imported that from somewhere. They bought it from another city that didn't want it and they moved it here. But that was the first bridge across the river. And so up until the 30s, they would cross the river, the Colorado River here, on a ferry or a ford, where the river will get low enough. And that's just still there, but it's just kind of next to a mobile home park.
I want to check that out. No, I haven't seen that.
And it's crazy to think it's there's the ford or the ferry spot, and then right down the road is a SpaceX facility. So the contrast of 100 years, hey, we can't get across the river. You have to put your Ford Model T on this boat and drive it across, to oh, here's the facility where we are gonna build pieces for something that eventually goes to Mars.
Yeah.
The contrast of that is insane.
Yeah, it's pioneer land.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Yeah,
on
always.
the forefront.
Yeah. And then also to think, not that long ago, so the Bastrop is the piney forest, right, or the Lost Pines. And so they would cut down the trees, but then how do you transport the lumber? So then they would cut it down, roll it into the river, and then float it to the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when you think about how far the ocean is from here, it kind of blows your mind.
Yeah, it's a long way.
Yeah,
especially with all the twists and turns.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So we do floats from my house on the Colorado to town.
Yeah,
and
you just get out at Fisherman's Wharf.
It's like an 8-minute drive.
Yeah,
and an hour float.
Yeah, and what is it? Not very far.
No, it's not far at all.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of twists and turns.
Yes. Yeah, just imagine trying to navigate hundreds of 50-foot trees down that river.
Yeah, with all the shallow spots, the rapids, mini rapids.
Well, and then what would happen is they would do this on the Red River and the Mississippi too. It would get clogged with trees. They would just and
bottleneck or something.
Yeah, just hundreds and hundreds and then they would just blow it up. That's how they would replace the logjam. Is they would just blow it up, or displace the logjam. They would just blow it up.
Okay. Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius doesn't come out of the womb as a leader. He's not just randomly chosen by Hadrian to be his successor, and then this is what makes him a great leader. Hadrian has a plan where he adopts Antoninus Pius on the condition that Antoninus adopt Marcus Aurelius. And then Marcus submits to a 20-year apprenticeship under Antoninus, where he learns what it means, what it is to be a leader. And this is why Marcus succeeds. This is why absolute power does not corrupt absolutely. This is what steals and informs Marcus's ability to respond to a pandemic, to war, to betrayal, to all the stresses and burden of the incredible leadership that falls on his shoulders. So this process, this apprenticeship that makes one a great leader. It's something we all need to undertake in our own lives, whether we're running a small company, leading an enormous team inside of a company, whether we're the head of a platoon of Marines, or we're just trying to be a better parent, which is a form of leadership. Becoming a great leader takes time, and that's why the longest and most in-depth challenge that we've done here at Daily Stoic, the Daily Stoic Leadership Challenge, is almost 3 months long. It's a deep dive, an email a day, a series of live Q&As with me and other leaders. We're going to be talking about how you master your emotions, how you deal with difficult people, how you prepare for and get through adversity, and then the Stoic philosophy behind leadership and responding to challenge. We're really excited for you to join this leadership masterclass. I think it's one of the best things we've done here at Daily Stoic. I got so much out of making it. I get so much out of the interactions we're going to have together. Registration is now open and the course begins on September 25th. Just go to dailystoic.com/lead to join. And remember, Daily Stoic Life members get this challenge and all the Daily Stoic challenges, including New Year, New You, which is coming up at the end of the year. All of these totally for free.
When did you move here?
Man, it's been about almost 2.5 years.
To this
Bastrop.
Okay.
Yeah. Austin, I've been here for almost 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 5.5 years. And I've been coming to Austin for over a decade.
Yeah.
And I had a little bungalow on the east side, so I'd come here quite often. I'd come here at least once or twice a year for South by.
Yeah.
Because I had an artist-run music label, so we used to do showcases at Arlen's studio every year. And then I just met a bunch of cool people, made some friends, and started a beer company with many investors from Austin, and just fell in love with the town.
I think we have the same almost exact trajectory, because I basically moved to Austin from New York.
Yeah.
And then to the east side, which I loved. And then we were like, well, if we're going to live in Texas, we should live in Texas. And that's how we ended up
We've come
here.
a long way, baby.
I know.
I mean, from Dove Charney here, you know.
I want to ask you about that.
I know. So, well, we started this interview, right?
Yeah. Why not?
So, I guess in no particular order.
Yes.
We are on like parallel paths. And how long have you been here?
I moved here in 2013, so 10 years. I moved to Texas in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got our place out here in 2015.
Okay, yeah, you were a few years before.
Yeah, the first weekend we moved here, so it's like we moved here on, I think it was Memorial Day, and it starts like raining. It's like, okay, I don't think like Memorial Day, lots of rain, starts raining. And then there's like a tornado watch. And our house has like a safe room in it. So we're like, do we have to go in the safe? So that like, I've not lived in the South that long. So now I'm like hunkered down from a tornado where, you know, like the alerts or whatever on your phone. And then it's like, dam has burst, move to higher ground. Dam has burst, move to higher ground.
Whoa.
And there was an earthen dam in the Lost Pines Park up here. What's it called? Bastrop State Park.
Is it still there?
Well,
it burst.
It burst, and all the water flowed from the park down into Tahitian Village and into Bastrop and stuff. It was this crazy flood. They just rebuilt the dam, but all that happened and then that summer, then the park caught on fire. So it was quite a.
Were you seriously questioning your
totally.
life choices?
Yeah. Well, and then anyone that moves, like, I think you think it's going to be fun to like move out to the country, and you get and it is fun like the first like couple weeks you do it,
so
and then
butterflies.
Everything goes wrong, and you have none of the skills required to fix it, and so you're just completely overwhelmed, and you're like, I think I've made a huge mistake. And then you realize the people sold you what you bought because they were tired of it, and because they deferred all the maintenance on it, and so all of that bill comes due for you like the first month you live there.
Yeah, everything starts falling apart day one. Yeah, I've been there. But so just in terms of the timeline, you moved here. And then is that what got you interested in Stoicism?
No.
Because that was around the same time, right?
No. Wait. So I got introduced to Stoicism in college, and then.
But when you started writing about Stoicism.
So my first
Because I would imagine you would have to reach into the book of like the Stoics books and Marcus Aurelius in order to help you get through life in the country.
Yes. Although, so my first book on Stoicism came out right the year after we moved to Austin. So I was living in East Austin when that came out. Okay. And then I wrote a chunk of Ego's the Enemy and the Daily Stoic on the ranch. That was like, those were the first projects that I did there.
That's what I was getting at.
Yes. Yes. And we're all good. So it was in college, and then I was studying it and researching it, and that was my life. But then I had that was what I was intellectually interested in. But then my life was very, very different because I worked for Dev Charney.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you took a little side.
I took a break. Yeah, or there, I think, and you can probably relate to this, there was a very big divergence between who I thought I was and what I was interested in and who I was aspiring to be, and then what I did for a living and what my work was like every day.
What people would pay you to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was and in my head, like in retrospect, that was that was like a short period and then actually a very long period. And you rationalize and justify things because it seems crazy to walk away, seems crazy to quit. It's just supposed to be one more thing or whatever. And then it's
one more job.
Yeah. It's a lot. Getting out is takes a lot longer than you think it's going to take.
Yes. We are so alike. Yeah. So you dropped out of school. I dropped out of school. We were hipster and intellectuals, and then we ended up becoming, media sellouts, I guess.
Yes. and then we ended up here.
No, I had the same trajectory because I resisted entourage and Hollywood and fame, and I had a lot of chances to become famous, and I said no all the time. I used to blow off auditions that I knew I was going to get because I didn't want to do it. And then I got so broke that it was like, all right, I compromised my values a little bit and then found success. And you have to rationalize it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. And then the more you rationalize it, the more it becomes your identity, the more you start to appreciate it, just the lifestyle and the materialism. Then suddenly you become it.
I think I wanted it more. Like, I think I was like, I'm a little bit younger than you, so I watched those shows, right? So like I remember I worked for this writer, Tucker Max, when I was in college. And I went to live with him the summer after my sophomore year of college. He was like, I just sold this screenplay.
And you wanted to be a writer.
Yeah, I wanted to be a writer. So I like, he just sold this screenplay. They were turning it into a movie. He had all these projects going on. And so I remember he was like, just come live with me for the summer in LA. And I think Entourage had just come out. Maybe it was the first or the second season. And so I'm like, this is going to be like Entourage. Like, that's what it's going to be like. And then he lived at...
I ruined Ryan Holiday.
He lived at Crenshaw and Pico. So is as far like in essentially the ghetto, and I slept on a mattress on the floor of the living room with like his dogs. Like it was as unglamorous as I remember. One day, a dog just walked into the front yard of. Front yard is glamorous because it was concrete. Like it was like a chain linked concrete paddock, and this dog. That was clearly from a dogfighting ring, just walked into the front yard and died. And you're like, I was like, this is not the Los Angeles lifestyle that I thought I was moving toward or moving to. So I think there was a part of me, like I was an assistant at a talent agency or a talent management agency. Yeah. And then I was working so I thought it was going to be this whole crazy cool thing. And it was the opposite of that in every way.
Right. Well, you're young. I was sleeping on couches myself, hanging out in offices just to use the Wi-Fi, In fact, I was in Mexico before Entourage. I had $1,000 to my name. I was making a documentary I was like trying to sneak into Cuba to make a documentary about Cuban hip hop. And I was just like at my lowest in life. I needed to like go home and get a real job this time. And I got a call about this show Entourage, and ended up like having my agent send me a ticket, like fly me to LA reluctantly to sleep on my manager's couch. And I just grinned. I like closed my eyes, like held my breath, and just swallowed it, even though it wasn't who I was. Ultimately,
who did you think you were?
I was a filmmaker. I was a musician. I acted because when I was younger, we used to make movies and on the high 8 cameras, like me and my friends on a Friday night. And you'd do what you needed to do. Like you'd hold the boom, or you'd act, or you'd hold the camera, because there's only a few people, so you all play many different roles. So I was acting really out of necessity, but it wasn't, I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want to be, I didn't want that to be my, I was always uncomfortable being the center of anything, to be honest. I like to be sort of in the background.
Do you think that's kind of maybe why they wanted you, is that you weren't that thirsty for it?
100%. Because I said no to the audition multiple times. And they were like, who's this kid who we can't get? Because if there's a celebrity out there, they're already famous, and they're not going to do this show, this pilot for a show, without getting paid more than the budget. And everybody who wanted it was too thirsty. They were just desperate for it. So they didn't feel... celebrities don't beg for a part. So I was the opposite of begging. I was very indifferent, nonchalant, cool, suave, whatever. And I think that worked.
Interesting. Yeah, it is weird. You think that when you don't want it as bad, you seem to get the things that when you were trying, like the Buddhists call it willful will, like the harder you're trying, the sort of the worse you are at stuff. And that role specifically sort of, it's weird to be playing a thing that you're not. It's like what's weird about that role is kind of like when you listen to like rappers' first albums and they're talking about like flying on private jets and things that they couldn't have possibly afforded yet. So you have to have some sense that, but so what that really is like the sort of confidence and the identity of the thing before you've actually, the faking it till you make it of it. And you not being interested because you were interested in something else sort of mimics the attitude that person would have.
And look, I think you got to fake it till you make it on some level. That's what acting is. I always think in terms of personal development, you're not the thing you want to be. Yeah. But you have to try it on.
Yeah, they call it acting as if.
As if, right? Yeah. Even do an extreme version that may be kind of phony and fake and feel awkward until it becomes more familiar. Then adjust it into something more natural. And the next thing you know, it's like what I did with chess. Chess, when I was younger, I wanted to be the type of guy that drank whiskey, listened to jazz, and played chess.
Right. And because you saw those somewhere and they meant something to you.
Beatniks or something, I don't know. And then I didn't know how to play chess. I didn't like the taste of whiskey, and I was, I didn't listen to jazz yet. So it was like all weird and, abstract for me. So then what did I do? Just went to jazz clubs, ordered whiskey, and started playing chess. Next thing you know, I got pretty good at chess. I started to really enjoy jazz, and man, that whiskey went down smooth. And I became that guy just by, faking it for long enough.
But that's the other thing is like, was that actually who you were? Like I think for me too, there was this sense, as I grew up in Northern California, so Southern California sort of had this allure. And then I found that a good chunk of my 20s was sort of being drawn towards things, not because like I was interested in them, but because people were interested in them.
You like those people, or you wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, there's this philosopher, Rene Girard. He has this thing called mimetic desire. Do you know what this concept is? Yeah. It's the idea that like you don't know what you want, so you want what other people want. Yeah. And so like it wasn't like a lot of the things I ended up doing, I didn't even know existed, right? I ended up doing them because someone was like, that's a thing that exists that you could be good at, and I want you to do that thing. And I was like, okay.
Or they embody cool, enough that you're like, oh, I want to dress like that guy, or be a rock star and live the lifestyle and be on Entourage.
You just want something better than the life you come from, or more interesting than the life you come from, or you want what's associated with it, which for me, I think was like, there was sort of like a dad energy in it of like approval / like they support you, they see your potential, things that I didn't really get growing up. So I was like, oh, well, if these father-like figures are telling me I should do it, I should do it. Like,
but also just the human drive to explore and try the frontier of your own life. Looking at what you could be and try it all a little bit.
Well, I noticed like I had a series of sort of very powerful but like controversial bosses, and my sister has the same.
What's your father was in the picture?
Yeah, he was, but he wasn't like some sort of abusive or distant figure, but he sort of loomed large in our house. Okay. Do you know what I mean? And was kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm still actually sort of working on figuring it out myself. But my sister and I both have had very similar bosses and very similar sort of like next to the throne jobs.
And you think it's reflective of your father?
It doesn't strike me as a coincidence.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you could work or do anything.
Right.
And very few people tend to get those kinds of jobs / roles. So the fact that we both ended up doing it, I've always found to be somewhat illustrative. It's like you're always looking for something that you didn't get, or there's sort of a daddy, tell me you're proud of me kind of a vibe.
Sure.
Which can be very motivating, but also can take you far from where you should go or where you deep down want to go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been exploring a lot about father wounds and how they manifest and how we recreate them to try and overcome or earn approval or daddy don't leave in my case, all that stuff comes out.
I talked about this in my Stillness book, but like at the height of his golf career, Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer in the world, maybe the greatest, most dominant athlete in any sport. And he seriously considers leaving to join the Navy SEALs. Like he tries to make it as a Navy SEAL, which seems insane on its face until you realize...
When did he do this?
This is like 10, 15 years ago.
Did he?
Yeah.
I did not know
that's how he fucks up his knees and his back is like all these jumping out of airplanes. That's why he's so much stronger than he actually needs to be. And he fucks up his knee in one case in these sort of training exercises where he gets his knee kicked out. Like they're clear, like you're clearing a room. Like he's doing these military exercises and somebody accidentally kicks out his knee. It all seems insane. You're like, why would you go from golf, which doesn't seem to be this super aggressive physical sport, to Navy SEALs? Well, his father was a Green Beret in Vietnam and a complete asshole and a sort of dominating, abusive figure in Tiger Woods' life. And you're like, oh, you want it, even though his dad wasn't even around anymore, there was some part of like, it doesn't matter how much I have, how much I've done, I'm not anything until I've done what my dad's done.
Yeah.
It's very, very Freudian.
Oh, well, I was thinking about this interview with you and and it sort of clicked. I was like, great, because I have a series called Man Upright. Yeah. And it's all about, because now I'm a father, right? You're a father. So like.
How old now?
He's 2 months.
Wow. Okay. You're in the shit.
But not wanting to repeat the patterns, wanting to show up as a better man and a better father for my son. And man, just knowing that no matter what you do on some level, you're gonna instill some things that, you're not immune. You can't reach perfection.
No.
Right? So you kind of stumble through it in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone has, there's no people that do not have some issues with their childhood. I think. So sort of not letting yourself off the hook, but being kind to yourself, going like, this isn't like a thing you can win.
Yeah. And it's not zero sum.
Yeah.
There's no right and wrong, right? You're in a continuum of learning yourself.
Yes.
And part of learning yourself is through imitation. When you're younger, you look up and I'm doing the imitation with my son right now, like faces and tongue and on the whole thing.
That's where they think empathy comes from. The ability to go like, oh, they're making this face at me. They're mirroring my emotions back to me. So that's what my emotions are. And so like, I think if you have parents that are bad at that, that's why you can become bad at that. Yeah.
Wow. Huh. So Tiger Woods,
yes,
I think while maybe his dad was an asshole, I don't know,
way worse,
still instilled in him some drive to achieve you know, I don't know, bodily physique, you know, heights or.
Well, there's a story you might like. So he's like, you know, the famous story is like Tiger Woods is golfing at like 2 years old.
Right.
Right. And there's a story that Tiger Woods, there's some things that you don't quite understand till you have kids. So like there's a story that what his dad would do is strap him into the like high chair and then just hit golf balls in the garage for like hours and hours and hours. And then one day Tiger Woods gets out of the thing, picks up a golf club and hits it. Right. Yeah. And like, I remember I first heard that and I was like, oh, that's what it takes like to be great. And then I go like, who just forces their kid to watch them hit golf balls for hours? Like that must suck for the kid. Right. You sort of go like, oh, that's weird. But there's a story where like, because he started golfing so young, he became this sort of like prodigy / media sensation. So like maybe at 3 or 4, he was on like the Merv Griffin show. So one of those like old daytime like talk shows. Mm-hmm. And so he's like showing how he can golf and everyone's like clapping, cheering. And some actor was the other guest. It was like Gregory Peck or, you know, someone like that. I'm forgetting who it was, but they're watching this and everyone's like clapping and cheering and like, this is amazing. And supposedly like Gregory Peck leans over to the host and goes like, this isn't cool at all. And he goes like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I've seen too many child actors and performers like over the years. And he's like, I know what it took to make this kid do it. And he's like, this won't end well. And so for like 40 years, it seems, or let's say 35 years, it seems that's totally forgotten because Tiger Woods seems like the most successful, most well-adjusted, like greatest athlete ever.
He was performing.
Yes, he was just doing what he had been molded to do. And there's actually a great book I have in the bookstore. I'll give it to you. Have you read Range by David Epstein? It's actually this really great sort of parenting book in disguise. The whole book is basically a contrast between Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. So Tiger Woods is supposed to be like, that's what it takes to be great. Right. And Roger Federer like doesn't pick up a tennis racket seriously until he's like 19 or something. Right. Like he doesn't do that, but he plays he has this more like easygoing childhood with a lot of different experimentation. He plays all the sports, you know, his identity isn't tied up in whether he wins or loses. And, you know, arguably they're the two equally dominant athletes, but one doesn't hate himself and blow up his life. Right. And the other does.
Yeah, I really am feeling into the fact that I can't teach my kid anything. I can't, you know, show them and make them do anything. I can mostly live by example and be the best man I can be. And they will see that and emulate it and then hopefully become their own person. And really something I'm learning, and I think and it's related, is true sovereignty. Like being in charge of your choices.
Yes.
Right? And not just pretending so that you look cool or pleasing your friends or making mommy and daddy proud or doing the work that your boss is going to give you a raise for, all these things. And it wasn't until recently that I have found that I'm truly making my own choices.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes you good. Not being that way is a very adaptive skill for success in the world, right? Like doing stuff to
external world.
Yeah, doing stuff so people will be pleased with you, proud of you, so like
the illusion of success, or that's the bling.
Like compare two actors, right? One who really wants the director, dad, to be proud of them, like them, approve of them, you know, pleased with them. That's the actor who will do anything and everything and will not quit. And then the one who's like self-motivated, self-contained, has their own sense of what, like, ultimately one is, I think, more sustainable and well-adjusted and healthy, but the other is more conducive to like being controlled, being directed, you know, and also being motivated. And so like these parts of ourselves are rewarded, you know, and then it becomes this feedback loop. And so it's really hard to break out of it. In some ways, you either needs to really not work for you, or you need to achieve a certain amount of success. And then you have the power to go, I just don't want to be that way anymore. And you can't make me.
Yeah. Well, it's tough because there's a certain discipline inherent within other people telling you what to do or trying to please them. It's motivating. You know, there's motivation in it. Like, I just want to be loved, or don't leave me, so I'm going to like do a song and dance so that you like me and stay.
Yeah.
Versus having to find the motivation, the driving force without all of that neurotic layer.
Yeah.
And that's something, I mean, frankly, that I'm working on, is like, how do I continue to achieve, well, it's really more financial. Like, how do I continue to bring in money even though I'm not playing those games?
Yes.
And I'm truly making a decision to live a life that is what I really who I am. Yeah, it's like, is that really who you were?
Yeah.
Like, who I really am is me now.
Well, growing up, my parents were very interested in like what people did, how much money they made, their proximity or adjacentness to like fame or attention or whatever, right? Like, oh, this, like, they'd be like, we went on vacation in Hawaii. You know who we saw at the beach? Like, insert famous person, right? Or like, this person lives in this neighborhood, and you know who else lives in that neighborhood, right? So like, even now, my parents will be like, you know, we just found out like so and so moved to our town. Like, so there's a lot of that, right? And so I don't think, in retrospect, it's a coincidence that like there was some part of me that moved to Los Angeles, that wanted to be on the bestseller list, that wanted to make money, you know, that wanted to have certain people blur my books, or to even just be an author, right? So there was this part of me that was motivated by those things that are really not healthy motivations and really not meaningful motivations, but they're obviously good. They're powerful motivations, right?
Yep.
And so it's been a process of shedding that over time. Like, I still like what I do, and I still want to do it, and I still want to do it at a high level, but I want to not be doing it. I've tried to become more and more, as a Stoic say, indifferent to those sort of things that are not really up to me, and be more, do I think it's good? Did it accomplish what I was trying to do? Did I work hard on it? And the weird paradoxical thing is that I've actually done better the less I have been interested in those things. Now, it could be a coincidence, or it could just be I was so motivated by those other things that it's just continuing.
What's your metric for better? I mean,
I just mean even by those old metrics. Like, so my last book, Discipline is Destiny, is the book that I have checked on the sales the least, where I actively made decisions that made hitting bestseller lists less likely. Like, I sold copies through my store, which don't count for the list. And my publisher was like, if you do this, like, it will affect where you end up, and so a bunch of stuff like that, right? And then the way I wrote the book. So
are you not getting the accolades from the outside world, or you still are?
Well, what I'm saying is, as I've gone on, I've optimized / aimed at those things less, but actually sold more, gotten a good chunk of those things anyway.
But are they being counted by the outside metrics of
to a certain degree? It's this weird thing where, like, it's kind of like the harder you're aiming. It's like, actually, golf is a good metaphor. The harder you're trying to hit the ball in golf,
the more you're going to flank it.
The more you're going to flank it, or just miss it altogether, right? Yeah. And so it's this kind of weird thing where you have to try less hard to do better. Right. And I've found that in my writing career.
Right, it's a meditation.
So I'm selling better the less I'm thinking about trying to make something that sells.
Right.
Or trying to spend all my energy on the sales side of things rather than the making stuff of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if people can hear that, but there's literally a parade going by the door. One of the wonderful / strange things about being in a small town.
You need to get a trailer and take this on the road. Do a moving podcast.
We should be doing the podcast as part of the parade.
Exactly. we could announce it.
It's that's one of the things I really like about living here, though, is just like, it's just a totally different, there just aren't parades there's the Macy's Day Parade, let's say, but like, there's not just like, hey, all the neighbors are getting together for a Pioneer Festival next week.
And by the way, anybody, Macy's Day Parade, you can't just go walk it.
Yeah,
right?
You can't participate in it.
Sure. Get your truck, throw on a trailer, put some balloons up, and you're in.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like living in 100 years ago or something.
Well, and my appreciation for farm equipment now is at an all-time high.
I got a tractor, by the way.
Nice.
We may have the same one. Braden picked it out for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I bought mine from the Cowboys who sold me the ranch.
Oh, I thought he helped you pick one out.
No, it was one of his. I think he might have ripped me off, but
Braden did?
No.
No, I thought, remember you had...
No, he was helping me decide whether or not I should buy it.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, well, maybe. Anyways, it's fun.
It's actually, it's not, it's in the shop right now, and in the shop means I'm trying to fix it. Oh. Which takes a lot longer, I'll tell you. But I'm trying to, because
you're trying to learn how to do it.
What would you get, a John Deere?
No, it's, I don't even know. It's orange. That's what I know about it. Probably, yeah.
Okay. So my appreciation for farm equipment has piked. And I don't remember what it was. They have a parade here where it's literally just...
they tow the stuff, yeah.
It's like big farm equipment and hydraulic machines and drills, and they just roll through the town, and you're just like, wow, look at this, so cool.
Well, yeah, and then you'll meet someone and they drive like the dustiest, crappiest, oldest truck, and then they have like a $200,000 tractor, and you're like, oh, okay, different priorities.
Yeah. Very expensive this equipment.
That's why I put it. I've lived out here 8 years, and for hay, I used like my ATV has this like trailer that hooks up to it, and you back the trailer up, and then it's a non-mechanized way of picking up the hay bales. It's really cool. The physics on this thing are like insane.
Okay, so
basically you hook it up to your ATV.
It's a dump truck of sorts?
No. So it's like this. It just looks like a trailer that you would like put a boat on or something, just like a standard. It doesn't look fancy. You hook it up to your ATV. You back it up to the hay bale. Like, let's say this is sideways, right? The round bale. You back it up, and then you slam on you lock the brakes, and then it folds. The trailer folds over the bale. And then these two spikes
through inertia, through its own.
Yeah, because you're backing up, but the wheels can't move, so it's got this hinge in it. I'll show you a video.
I see.
It's crazy. This will make great radio.
So are you doing this? Are you doing this yourself?
Yeah. And then
so because I want to come out for a proper tour of the farm and see what you're up to out there. By the way, we've been neighbors for how many years, and we've yet.
I know. Well, I've been to your place.
You've been to my place, yeah.
Your place is closer.
You've been keeping me away from. I don't know what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
You're up to something.
It turns out I actually like live in a. So there's this kind. So this one is cool. You just back that up, and then it stabs the bale, and then you crank it by hand, and it goes like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of tension, and it's kind of sketchy. This is okay. This might not work. I'll show you later.
I just have basically a spike that goes on the back of the tractor. You just poke it and lift it and move it.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I did yesterday. But for like 8 years, I did this old way because I didn't trust myself to not take care of a tractor.
So are you actually mowing your fields for hay, or you
get it delivered and then put the hay
and that's for the cows?
For the cows, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, how many cows do you have now?
Like 15.
Yeah, and just cows?
We've cows, donkeys. We had goats till we had a wild dog incident, and then we've got chickens.
Dog?
Yeah, that's the main predator out here.
The dog killed the goats?
Like a pack of wild dogs killed 3 goats.
Fuck.
Like brutally.
Oh man,
it was horrible. And we actually had them when we lived in East Austin, so they were like more than pets.
Family.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
We're jumping ahead, but I have found that living out here has been, like the Stoics talk about memento mori, like this practice of meditating on immortality. The proximity to death, even when you are trying very hard and doing your best,
brother, you're talking my language. I mean, yes,
very eye-opening and life-changing.
All day, every day.
Yeah. Have you lost anything yet?
Of course. Our llama just had a stillbirth.
Oof.
It was brutal. Like we're all of a sudden, Jordan's has, elbows inside trying to coax this poor baby out, and it was not alive. And it's heartbreaking. And a year, llama's gestation is a year.
Yeah.
and we just had our child. So it's just like,
right. It's like, this isn't this abstract like thing that animals do. Like you're like, oh, that's a mammal thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're not that different.
Yeah. And so I'm working on a project. It's a television series that I created about grief.
Oh.
And for too long, we've been in the cities.
Yeah.
And cities are designed to mask you from those realities.
Of course.
Right? They're an escape from our mortality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here on the ranch and the farm, within nature, you are definitely pitting up against that razor's edge. Everything is, trying to survive, trying to live. Something dies and something else eats it. It's for food, right? It's
the longhorn skulls that are on the wall in the bookstore. Like, so we bought the place, and then the neighboring guy had the cows, and then he got old and he wanted to leave, so he was like, "Do you want to buy my cows?" So we got these cows, which he assured us were like, he's like, "Oh, they're like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old," and it's like immediately after we got them, they all started dying of old age, like they were like 20 years old. That is one of the humbling things we've learned out here is just like your neighbors are really nice, but they will also trick the shit out of you if they want to get rid of something.
A deal's a deal.
Exactly. So we bought these old cows, and then so like one of them got so old that like it couldn't eat anymore. Like, so it's like slowly dying. So we, the vet comes out and he's like, "I think you got a little more time, blah, blah." So we're like, okay. And then like, flash forward a couple months later, it's like definitely near death. It's not eating. And we call the vet, and the vet's like, "Okay, I could come out like next week and, it'll be like $250. I'll like put it down." He's like, "But you should just take care of it." And I go like, "Well, what does that mean?" This is like, he's like, "You have a gun, right? You should take care of it." And I was like, okay. And so now I have to go put down like my own cow. Yeah. And I ultimately end up doing it, but like there's a bullet hole in the skull of that cow because like I had to put it there, and it's just it's a different relationship with life.
Because you didn't want to spend the money.
No, it's not. I didn't want
because you wanted to yourself.
No, it was like, am I going to let this? It's not the $250. It's, do I want to let this thing suffer for an additional week while we wait for the vet? Yeah. Right? The vet's like, "I'm busy. I'll come out," but the animal's going to suffer in the meantime.
Well, more to the point. Not only is being in charge of your choice making about your own life and how you be, and who you are, it's also about what you take responsibility for.
Yes,
like you took charge of that situation to be a protector, to be compassionate to this animal. And before the animal rights, peace and love, we are all one mentality from my liberal upbringing in New York was like, don't kill animals, like, oh, those poor things, but
sure.
Have a different relationship to life and death now, and to killing.
Yeah, it's if you read The Little Prince, did you hear that book when you were a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he goes, "We're responsible forever
I should probably
for what we've tamed."
Now that I'm an
It's
adult.
a great kid's book. Yeah. But he says we're responsible for what we've tamed, and it's like, I didn't domesticate this cow, I didn't put it here, but it's my problem now, and it can't handle so. It's this. What is less cruel? Putting it down or letting it die naturally, painfully, in a situation of its own making, or not of its own making. Like it wasn't, it was bred to do something that it is fundamentally unnatural and unsustainable. And now it's not like a lion's going to come take care of this problem now that it's the weakest member of the herd. It's just going to wither and die. And either not making a choice, like not choosing not to do something about it, is also an ethical choice.
Yeah.
And so it forces you to reckon with things that, living in the city, you don't. How many people put aside like see a person die? How many people see literally anything die?
Right. Yeah.
Their whole life.
Yeah.
You just hear about it.
Yeah. We have chickens, and we can let them free range. Yeah. So that they're natural and out in the fields and, foraging for insects. But then guess who else is foraging?
Yeah.
The bobcats and the hawks. So, you have to make these choices, right? Are you going to close them in, smothering mother, like protect them, you know, in their life, but make them suffer in a cage. You know, it's not easy.
I heard a noise on the porch last night, and there was 5 raccoons on my porch.
Ooh,
and it was like,
they're brutal, those guys.
We had slowly been watching the chickens disappear. We assumed it was something like that. That's who it was. And then it was like, now I have this decision. What am I going to do about the raccoons? And I ended up, it was actually funny. My wife grabbed a shoe and she threw it at them, and it knocked them over like bowling pins. It was like the most comical thing I've ever seen. And then they all scampered away, and I'll just do a trap like tonight and I'll move them or whatever. But yeah, you realize, hey, this choice that feels kind, say like not locking up the chickens, is perhaps not kind, right? Or because it's not like you didn't breed, like somebody bred them to be totally unprotected, able to defend themselves.
I mean, God made them food.
Yeah. I mean, right? The food for you or food for something.
Yeah, something.
So but either way, you just get used to, you have 10 chickens and then you have 8 chickens.
Yeah.
And then what's also revealing or interesting about it, I remember we had this goose, we had a couple geese, and geese are hilarious and really fun. And they would live sort of on the pond, and then they would come in, and like the first time one of the geese got attacked, we like took it to the vet, paid a bunch of money to get it like, you know, fixed up or whatever. And then like a week later it gets, you know, taken. And we were more sad than the other geese, which did not give a shit.
Right.
And you realize like animals have come to cope with the fact that somebody gets picked off on a regular basis, and that they don't feel sorry for themselves about it.
No, they're in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have to come. We're gonna.
Okay.
So we what do you do about snakes?
Well, it depends. If we have chickens and it's a problem for the chickens, like the eggs or whatever, it also depends on what kind of snake it is. If it's a rat snake, usually I'll hope it'll just sort of move on and go away.
Please go.
Yeah.
Please.
You can also, you just put a fake egg out or a golf ball, and then they disappear because they eat that.
And die.
Yes.
Oh, so you kill them.
So that's one thing you can do. Oh
my God.
Yeah.
This is where we might diverge.
Okay. So you like snakes? I'm not a snake person.
So when I first moved to the land, you know, you start to realize either you're going to call someone to come handle the snake, which is like ridiculous because by the time they show up, the snake's anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're going to pay somebody to do that, or you do it yourself, right? And the question is, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to kill every snake you see?
Sure.
I tried that, you know, cut off the head of one with a shovel.
Rattlesnake? Or what was it?
I didn't know at the time.
Right.
It looked like a snake. It was just a scary snake, you know? And I was like, this is not sustainable. I was heartbroken. And then, you know, you just deliberate with yourself and you start to realize, okay, if I kill every single snake, that's a lot of murder.
Yeah.
You know? So I learned to wrangle the snakes. I learned to...
Wow. What did you, like a stick or something?
Yeah, with just a long clasp, you know, with the handle on the
Because they
end.
go in your chicken coop and they eat the eggs and they eat the chickens.
I've had to take one out of the chicken coop.
Yeah.
And I actually had some mouse traps in our chicken coop because those I will kill. That's where I draw
mice?
the line.
Yeah.
Because they will
Although the snakes
procreate.
kill the mice.
That's true. But there needs to be some balance, right?
Yes.
Obviously. And they're not going for the rats or the mice. They're going for the chicken eggs, which we eat.
Yeah.
So, but I had some mouse traps in the chicken coop because there was an infestation.
Yeah.
And when I went to go take off the box where the mouse trap was in, because you have to protect. Yeah, you have to protect the chickens from
They're
the
dumb,
mouse trap.
They'll eat anything.
I pick up the box and there was a snake that would have tagged me right then, but it was in the mousetrap.
Yeah.
So I had to free the snake in order to capture it and then relocate it.
Right.
So I was getting into relocation for a long time, but then the question is, where do you relocate them to?
Right.
Because if you take them a mile or two away, I mean, you're just going to basically release them into someone's yard.
Yeah, somebody else's problem.
There's not a lot of wild areas here. You're technically not allowed to go to like the Bastrop
the park or something.
Park, right? Yeah. Technically, I'm not to say that I did or I didn't. I might have, but where are you gonna take it? And if you take it too far, they'll actually die anyway because they're too far from their habitat. And if you relocate them close by, they'll just show up again. So I've come to the point where I'm just letting them be entirely. And now that I have a kid, it makes me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I can create enough balance on the land, as you said, and leave them alone and be mindful.
Sure.
Be present in the moment. I find snakes to be a reminder to pay attention.
Tune out. Sure.
Because sometimes if I'm walking and there's a snake, I'm like, oh, boom. Suddenly
it makes you feel
there.
You realize at a very primal level, you are feeling and aware of things that you are just not in a regular. Like we have a relationship with snakes that goes way back.
Yes. All the way back to the first of us.
Yeah. No, I'm more that way now, and definitely Samantha's that way, except for rattlesnakes, copperheads, or what's the other one?
Cottonmouth.
Is it cottonmouth? Copperheads, cottonmouth. Yeah, there's like a handful of poisonous snakes. So when I see those, I usually take care of it. I have there's like snake shot in a pistol that you can do, or like a rifle. Sometimes I'll just do that. But
how hard is it to hit them?
Well, so snake shot, it's like, like a shotgun shell, like it's
I see.
Like that. But it's a small, it's like a 22 shell that shoots like a round of BBs that's maybe like this big. So you only have to just be in the ballpark. But this is like a once a year occurrence. For the most part, they slither away. Or
they're gonna cancel you, man. You better be careful
of shooting snakes.
Someone's gonna cancel you out there.
I feel like snakes are one of the few remaining things that the majority of people feel disgust and disdain for.
Yeah, I mean, I kill cockroaches.
Yeah, that's up there too.
And mice and cockroaches are definitely on the kill list.
Yeah, well, the mice attract the snakes, unfortunately. So. You realize you're just creating this sort of ecosystem, and like you would like it to be perfect and only conducive to what you want, but your chicken coop is attracting all these other things.
And ants, particularly when they're in your house, like
flies,
they gotta go. Flies, maggots, yeah. Although you could eat them, I guess. Right?
What?
So you feed the flies to the chickens.
Yes.
So do you have? I imagine you have a lot of grasshoppers.
Yes.
Right, because they're rampant. They're invasive.
It's like a locust.
Yeah, exactly. So what I've been doing is riding around on the buggy with a net, capturing them. You just drive fast enough. And
like when you're driving, they come up. They'll like hit you in the face. Yeah. They'll jump on you. Yeah.
But you gather them in the net on the way to the chicken
like a butterfly net or something.
Yeah.
And then you feed it to the chickens.
Just feed them to the chickens.
I do that with scorpions whenever we catch do you ever get scorpions in your house?
We haven't. I've seen a couple dead babies, but not any live, nothing,
like chickens, they'll eat it. Like if I catch like a frog in the pool, I throw it to the chickens, they eat that.
Black widows.
Yeah, anything. Chickens will eat anything.
Yeah, but they won't eat the ants.
Yeah, I've always wondered that.
Guys, come on.
I know. There's like a giant ant mound like 5 feet from where my chickens are. Have you ever done the thing? I've only seen videos of it where you dump like mercury or silver or something. They dump like a molten metal in an anthill. Yeah,
you mean to create the mold of it?
Yeah, and then it's like this weird sculpture thing.
I've seen that. Yeah. You did that?
No.
Oh.
It seems expensive / dangerous.
Yeah. So we have leaf cutter ants.
Yeah.
And I don't think
those are cool.
You have?
I've seen them. Yeah. Like where they've cut like a whole trail and they're carrying
the leaves.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing.
But they'll take down a whole. So we have a food forest, and they've taken down a whole tree in a night.
Wow.
So we are not.
You're not fucking with those?
No, we do not. And I've just been trying so many different ways to get rid of them, and of course, natural. We don't want to use. Pesticides and so it's tough. It's very tough. you're part of that thing, that, you know, cycle of life. And you, my friend, they're indifferent to you and your food forest.
When I wrote The Daily Stoic 8 years ago, I had this crazy idea that I would just keep it going. The book was 366 meditations, but I'd write one more every single day and I'd give it away for free as an email. I thought maybe a few people would sign up. Couldn't have even comprehended a future in which 750,000 people would get this email every single day, and would for almost a decade. If you want to get the email, if you want to be part of a community that is the largest group of Stoics ever assembled in human history, I'd love for you to join us. You can sign up and get the email totally for free, no spam. You can unsubscribe whenever you want at dailystoic.com/email. There's a Stoic philosopher, his name is Musonius Rufus, and he said, the only profession suitable to a philosopher is farming, which I thought was interesting, and I didn't really get at first. And then you realize just all the different ways that it challenges you ethically, morally, it challenges your patience, it challenges your, it connects you with nature, it forces you to be present. It does all these, it brings through all these weird philosophical principles, which you wouldn't think that like growing stuff or raising cattle or just taking care of the land or fixing fences would draw out of you, but it does.
Yes. Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you find the balance? Because you're still in the previous world on some level.
Yeah.
You're still doing the media game. And I had a question for you about, well, where do we start? How do you find the balance between your foyer into farming and ranching and still staying in it with regards to writing and all that?
The hard part is like, there is something satisfying about doing it yourself. And then there's also like,
how long it takes.
Did you get this thing to like take you away from your other things? Like I remember when we first had kids, it was at a different place. I had a lot going on, but I'd be like, wait, I just spent the whole day clearing brush, you know, which was like satisfying and physically, you know, invigorating, but also like my wife was inside with our 4-month-old, and maybe that's not the best use of my time. So I try to balance it. I've gotten to a place where also I don't feel insecure about it anymore, in the sense that like if I don't do it and I pay someone to do it, I don't feel like I'm.
But you've
like
done it at least the first time.
Yeah, that I've done most of it, and I could do it if I wanted to. Like we just had a good chunk of our fencing replaced, like the barbed wire, because it was really old. I can replace barbed wire, and I have hung barbed wire, but like, do I need to hang several thousand feet of barbed wire? And am I going to do as good a job as people who this is their thing? So I think there's a tension in farming, but in all facets of life, of like delegating versus being like a control freak.
Yeah, I just think it's a slippery slope, right? I was distinctly in my other life climbing the capitalist ladder.
Sure.
So that I could have more money, to have more free time, to be more bougie, to have more brunches, and get more soft. You know, and I was quite good at it.
Yeah,
right? I was.
You can get quite soft.
I was quite, you know, I was weak.
Yeah,
I had very little skills. I had some skills which, you know, got me a media career. Yeah, but I had no skills as a man, as a. You know, I mean, we don't have to, as a man, I'm just going to say it. And now I have to make up for lost time. And so in many ways, I do the work because it is fulfilling and invigorating, but also because I want to make sure that I'm still in it. I have an embodied experience, as opposed to just everything being abstract and in my head, and then letting other people do the work. So it is a balance, because you lay 1,000 feet of barbed wire and then you clear the brush. There's your week, right? Yeah, sure. Not to mention all the other things you have to do. So I was the same in that I want to do it all, and I'm going to do it all myself. And I was just untenable. Like it just doesn't make sense. So can I continue every day to do something and be present in my body, on the land, in nature, doing the work, getting sweaty, building calluses, and also leave room for scalability by bringing in community, bringing in others, and supporting them to participate as well. So I think, it's a balance for sure.
That's something I've been thinking about as a parent, which is weird. Like people go like, oh, I'm going to mow my own lawn. I'm going to change my own oil. There's this idea of like, I want to do everything myself. But the one thing people are very quick to outsource is the care of their children, which I've always thought is so strange. So it's like, you'll hand off your kid to this stranger for hours a day
so that you can go mow your own lawn.
Or like if I was like, you know what, you should hire an assistant, and you go, I can't afford that. Like that's very expensive. Or there's this sort of reluctant to like staff up in a business or freelance or whatever. And then you'll have that same person will have babysitters and nannies or what, like
so they can do it.
We staff. People are very comfortable with staff in all the senses of that word for the most precious thing they have in the world, and then are very possessive of things that don't matter at all, that don't say anything about you. So like my main thing is I like to spend like a lot of time with my kids. And so I'll pay people to do other shit. And I don't feel insecure about that at all. Like that doesn't make me feel like less than a man, that I'm looking out and someone's like outside getting sweaty doing something for me because like I'm playing Legos with my boys, or we're traveling or whatever. So I think the balance of like you could do it, you know how to do it. These are all very important skills, and then there is this sense of like, people prioritize very strange things that are tied to their identity, and then they accept as a given that like someone else should be doing the childcare, which has always struck me as very strange.
Yeah, one part of the impetus for me in my homesteading journey was about not outsourcing my life to the world. But being a part of it, like living it, like I get to live my life. I get to, and really finding this balance of how do we choose community? How do we choose, because our fragmented culture forces us to outsource many of these jobs that were traditionally part of the family. Like your mom would be, or your parents would be living with you, or aunts and uncles, and they'd help you with the kids, as opposed to now you got to pay some stranger to come in and do that, while that stranger has their kid, in some daycare. And you're just like, you're not taking care of your kids to take care of our kids, and we're paying you so that we can do something else. It's backwards. So recalibrating all of these things is important. And it's not that you do it all and you just don't let anybody else touch your lawn or your kids, but it's about reintroducing yourself to what it's like to do it, so that you can then find the right balance.
You and I have a similar journey that we both sort of were on either like a rocket ship, or we've gotten to the top of something that a lot of people would want to get to the top of, and then we both sort of stepped away. So what was that for you? Like, what were you running away from, or what were you walking towards? Like, why not just continue what you were doing? That must have seemed totally insane to a lot of people.
Because I was on the wrong track. I was definitely on the wrong path of life. I was selfish, narcissistic, indulgent, bougie as fuck, and I had an awakening. I saw my future, and I realized I was going to be utterly alone. I had no family. I was in my early 40s. My girlfriend dumped me because I was a prick, and it was like rock bottom. I was like, holy shit! Like I've spent all this time building up this life, and so that I could strategically place dopamine hit opportunities throughout the day, whether it's drugs and alcohol, partying, sex, and all these things that would take me out of myself. And so I was escaping presence and feeling, numbing. And then I sort of hit a rock bottom. I was like, I got to change everything. And I didn't know what that meant. It just meant that I had to strip away, start to reduce all of the lifestyle things that I had built the houses, the parties and the travel and everything, and just get really small. And that's when I took my house in Austin and I moved in the backyard because I was renting it out at the time to some young guys. And I moved into the trailer that I had in the backyard, and I lived there for a year, basically meditating and reading and exploring who I am and what I want to be, and learning to make my own choices for the first time in my life.
Sure.
I have to do this job because it's going to pay me all this money and take me around the world. But what's for what?
For why?
Yeah. And what's that going to, sure, I have more money, more escape, more, people applauding me, but who am I?
I remember I had a conversation with Tim Ferriss once, and he was like, I have a question for you. I was like, okay. He's like, what do you do with your money? I was like, what do you mean? I was like, is this like an investment question? He's like, no. He's like, when you have money, what do you spend it on? He's like, do you have like a speedboat? Do you he was like, what do you spend the money on? Mm-hmm. And I was like nothing. Like, I don't really, there's not like things that I spend it on. I just just goes.
You buy real estate.
Yeah. Well, no, it just goes in this account, and then the number gets higher. Right. Like I just save it. I don't I have more than I need, is basically what I was saying. And he was like, okay, so he was like, make sure you make business decisions accordingly. And that was like super helpful to me, because there is this sense, like, again, if you don't know what you want what other people want. And what most people want is more. They want more money. They want lots of money. They want to get to some place where they have the most or so much or an unlimited amount. And if that's not important to you, realizing that is incredibly freeing, because then you don't have to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Or that you shouldn't do. And then it makes it easier to say no to things. Yeah. It's still very hard, especially when there's a large number attached to the thing that people are offering you. But knowing, like, here's the kind of thing that I want to do, so I'm going to say yes to those things. And then pretty much everything else I don't need to say yes to, because it doesn't give me what I want. And so there have been a handful of pivotal moments where, like, someone offered me something very, very cool, even if it wasn't financial, but it would mean moving here or giving up this or not spending time with these people, and going, that might be success by some traditional definition, but it's the opposite of the life that I want. And so I can confidently pass.
So many people are driving with the brake on, they're doing all these things, but it's actually keeping them
from what they want.
Right. So it's like you're just creating a gulf between you and your true self.
Yeah.
My growth journey converged with the pandemic.
Me too.
And that was another thing. I was like, holy shit. Like, I was in my trailer when the pandemic hit, and I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need anything. I was cooking on an open flame, in a little fire in the backyard.
Yeah.
And living in a camper. I was like, I don't need all the things. And people were struggling because all of a sudden everything that they had, or their job or whatever, it's like now they have to do without and stay inside and be confronted with self. So for me, the pandemic was like confirmation, like you're on the right path.
Yeah, it was a wake-up call for me. It was like, oh, I like where I live. I like my life. And now, because some other things were taken away, like all my speaking got canceled, all this stuff went away. And it was like, now I have to spend time doing the thing that actually I want to do.
Yes.
My writing got better, my family life got better, and all these things. And I know this can feel very glib because so many people actually did suffer and lose all these things. But yeah,
it's a wake up call for a culture as well.
But it's this idea of, like, a lot of people spend a lot of time doing things that are actually taking them further away from where they want to go or what they actually like. And this isn't out of necessity. If you're working 3 jobs because you're a single mom supporting her family, that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about someone who says they're doing it all for their family, and so they're working, 18-hour days on Wall Street or at some law firm to someday be able to not do that thing, to do the thing that they actually have right now. Like, I remember I was talking to this guy who's an author, and he had all these connections. So anyways, he gets this opportunity to run this like VC fund, and he raises like $100 million for this VC fund, which is a ton of money. And I was like, but let's walk through this. Like, let's say your VC fund over the next 7 years succeeds. It's huge. So you walk away, let's say you make $20 million, $25 million, which would be insane. When you have succeeded at this thing, what will you do then? And he's like, well, blah, blah, blah. It boils down to he would go back to writing books, right? And so it's like, okay, so basically you're hoping to pull off this 1,000,000 to 1 shot. You're going to spend every waking hour trying to do this incredibly difficult, competitive thing. You're going to try to not just beat the market, but beat all the other people trying to beat the market. And what you will do with what you have won, with your winnings, will be effectively to go back and do what you are already doing. And there's that old email that gets forwarded around, but actually it's this story about a king. Like there's a story of like a fisherman in Vietnam or something. Right, that's actually a story about the real story dates back to like the 14 or 1500s. It's this king and this advisor goes, we should invade this country and then invade this country and invade this country and invade this country, conquer all of them. And then we can live at peace. But they're at peace now, right? And so there is this sense where people do a lot of things to get to a position that's actually much more accessible and realistic right now than they think it is.
Yeah, and as opposed to developing the appreciation for the small things, the simple things, the immediacy of your situation. And not to say you shouldn't strive, but to build resilience. And that's one thing. Like now I know, like as you were saying before, I'm not so afraid of having to achieve and make all this money and climb that ladder, because I know that I can be quite happy with very little.
Yes.
So it gives me a lot more freedom, and I have the power of choice in the moment without having to make any choice that would be simply for the money.
Yeah.
Because I can always fall back on my fence mending skills and do it myself. And especially with the pandemic and the uncertainty of the future and the fragility of our centralized economic system, if everything collapses tomorrow, I can survive.
Your spread's a little fancier than mine, but sometimes I think, so we have this nice big piece of property. It looks out over this lake, which is really a tank, as you learn.
Right, yes.
Mine is not spring fed like yours. I don't have the river, but it's beautiful, right? I look out my back window or bedroom window. I step on the porch. I'm like, this is incredible. I can't believe I have worked so hard and gotten so lucky and earned these things that this is mine. But my adjoining neighbor has like 3 acres that are effectively worthless, and they live in a very small old trailer. But they have the same view. They have my view, right? Like they look at my property. And so like that was one of the things that I reminded myself of during the pandemic. Like we were spending all this time together alone. We had security and I didn't have to worry about money. Unlike a lot of people, I felt very blessed, walking around. And then I'd go, so much of even this is superfluous. Like, again, my next door neighbor or this person, they have the same thing that I have at a much more like I could fall many levels, like many rungs down the ladder and still be good. And when you realize that, it gives you, I think, some security and confidence to be like, I don't really want to do that. Like, or I don't care about that. I'm not going to get in that game.
Like the ability to say no is a very powerful thing.
Yeah, you think you need, people. I remember I interviewed this guy who's this tech entrepreneur, and he talks about how all these people are working very, very hard, trying to pull off very difficult things to get fuck you money.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, I've met a lot of people who are doing that, who have done it. And he was like, I have not heard very many people say fuck you. So you think that getting this thing is going to make you more independent, more secure, more, aggressive in the risks that you take and the stands that you take, just all the things that you do. But in fact, the exact opposite happens. Usually becoming successful makes you more conservative, not just politically, but just like now you have it and you know how hard it was to get it. And so you don't want to lose it. And so you end up working harder, you end up doing more. Then you have this stake and you're like, well, it's got to grow at this percentage a year. Or, if I don't spend it, then in 20 years it'll be worth, X, right? And so you think that getting this stuff is going to get you to this place that's different. And in fact, it just gets you to a place that's more like the insecure place that you started at.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just hearing a lot of people being like, oh, easy for you to say, right? Keeping up with inflation ain't nothing, right? And
sure.
So I guess
I'm just trying to, like, I remember someone told me, like, your money doesn't have to grow, right? It just shouldn't run out, right? Like, I mean, it should, and you should be savvy, but there is also, though, I think, and again, these are sort of privileged champagne problems, but people get to a place where they feel like getting it isn't enough.
Right, yeah.
Then they have to grow it and double it, triple it, or whatever. And so it creates this immense amount of insecurity. The whole point of financial success should be that you don't think about money that much.
Right, yeah.
And then you talk to people who have extraordinary amounts of money and all they talk about is money and their whole life still revolves around money. Where are they on the Forbes list? How are their investments doing? Can they afford this new fancy thing or whatever? And there's a poverty in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was unlearning that myself.
Yeah.
Always needing more, the next thrill, the next high, as opposed to just really, whittling it, reducing it all down to just the bare essence of being. Yeah. And being happy with that. Yeah. Being content with that, because there's a lot of people who have a lot who are very discontent, and then there are people who have very little who are also discontent. Sure. Like they're not recognizing what they do have. Yeah. Because obviously flash over all media, it's like you need more. Entourage is the goal. Yeah. Versus what stories we tell ourselves. Yeah. Is so important, and you know about this, from media literacy. It's like you have to be careful what you consume, what you watch. No, it can break what it tells you about yourself. Yeah, yeah.
No, this is very true as parents, right? So you follow these accounts that give you a sense of how other parents are doing or what their life looks like, and it's not realistic at all. Like I've never seen a single sort of parenting mom or dad Instagram account where the house wasn't spotless. Right. I've never seen one where the kids are crying and screaming and yelling, where the parents are stressed, where they haven't showered. It looks perfect. And that's not what it looks like. And it's definitely not what my house looks like.
Shit.
And so
now you tell me.
You have this idea of who are you trying to impress? What image are you trying to keep up? If you can get in this sort of algorithmic loop that's making you feel inadequate and shitty all the time, and this can happen to you if you're a 12-year-old girl, or it can happen to you if you're a 50-year-old man who thinks that the truck that you or I drive is cool, and then you see somebody else driving an insert fancy car, and you go, well, I don't have that. Did I make the wrong decision? Do I not have what it's not good for the brain to, keeping up with the Joneses is a very natural thing. So you have to be very diligent about what Joneses you let in your life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's tough with the algorithms who are telling you what Joneses you want in your life. Yeah, I saw an Instagram account, and there was a tip on how to change a diaper to avoid blowouts. Yeah. And so I was doing it for the longest time, and I kept getting blowouts. And finally, Jordan, she looked at the way I was doing it, and I was doing it totally wrong. I was folding it under, and I think it might have been a prank. Someone probably put that out there to just fuck with parents and increase blowouts.
Yeah, or who knows? Maybe they're just an idiot or a crazy person or whatever. Yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah, with too much trust in what you see. I saw it. Of course, it's it's So it's funny. We are very much alike. Because you did a lot of work in media critique.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen Teenage Paparazzo. Have you seen my film? So that's basically a media literacy film from the eyes of a celebrity.
Sure.
And I basically turn the cameras onto a paparazzo who's 13 years old.
Yeah.
And he's an aspiring paparazzi, taking pictures.
What a strange thing to
and
aspire
it became
to.
this hall of mirrors, like this fractured, media landscape where everyone's taking pictures of everybody and everybody's striving to be what I had, and I'm trying to deconstruct it. I urge you to check it out because I think you'll see that we have yet another thing in common.
Well, you were working on a documentary about Dove at one point, weren't you?
Well, and then there's that, yeah. Uh-huh.
I remember hearing about that. And
I was trying to do a narrative series.
Oh, about him?
Yeah.
Like fictional?
Fictional, yeah. Like a written, I was going to play Dove.
Yeah.
And I just needed him to give me his life rights and his trust.
Yeah.
So that I could go make a series about him. And obviously you could do all the salacious stuff. Because, we share. You worked with Dove and I was friendly with him. In trying to make this project, but I really wanted to make a show that would not vindicate him, but really show the contradictions within the fashion industry that would look at a guy like Dove Charney and shame him and make him this perverted figure. When if you look across fashion, there's a lot of perversion.
Well, there's different kinds of perversions, right? So it's like, hey, the decision to do these like slightly pornographic or risque or controversial ads, that's one area that someone could say, ethically, I don't like that. But that same person has a 17-year-old girl working, 10 hours a day in in a windowless factory that could collapse by earthquake at any moment, making 50 cents an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like there's different forms of exploitation. Totally. And the exploitation that is visible and titillating or, sexual in some way that like really stands out to people. But I remember he said once to me, he would go like, he said something like, if you're buying a swimsuit for $8, somebody got fucked. Like his point was like, you can't do that.
Right.
In any ethical, non-exploitative, cruel way. Yeah. And we as a society have totally taken that for granted, that that's what things should cost. And for the same reason we don't think about where our food comes from, we don't want to think about just how inherently exploitative and awful most of the clothes or items we wear, where they come from.
100%. Yeah. So I guess he was one of the early figures that, was being canceled. And this is pre-Me Too.
Yes.
So he was sort of getting away with it to a large degree. And then Me Too just undermined.
He's also a fascinating figure. I think it's a very common thing that like super talented, super successful people, they have the thing that makes them great. And then they have the demon or the wound.
Which is usually the same.
And ultimately destroys them after it's propelled them to some height. Like there's something, one of the things I came to understand was like the American Apparel girl, which was so iconic and fascinating and popular, like his image, like the thing he was upset, his like Gatsby-esque, like that's the, like, it wasn't just this thing he found aesthetically pleasing. There was some, like, that must have been the girl that he was in love with in high school and could never get because of who he was. And so later, after he'd achieved all this incredible success and had so much going for him, the fact that he would risk all of that, legally, ethically, morally, just plain self-control, that he couldn't stop himself and wouldn't stop himself when they said, Dove, you will lose everything if you have another relationship with a person who works for you. You know, like Josh Peck actually interviewed him. He asked if I would connect. You know who Josh Peck is?
Yeah.
He interviewed and he was like, Dove, like, I'm going to describe a situation to you. He's like, you cannot eat peanuts, right? And he's like, if you touch one more peanut, you will lose everything, right? You know, he's just talking metaphorically, and Dove goes, I should be able to have sex with whoever I want. Like, Dove couldn't even metaphorically wrap his head around the idea that there's some things that you can't do. And so he destroys, he's, when Dove was following his sort of ethical North Star of like, fashion companies shouldn't fuck people over, and clothes can be like, it don't have to ruin the environment. Like when he had this sort of sense, this vision for what creatively and structurally was possible, like as an entrepreneur, he was amazing.
Totally.
And then when he was driven by the opposite of his North Star, which was his dick, he was a monster.
Whatever hole inside him, you know, American Apparel girl sized hole in his heart, right? And Rosebud.
Yes, it's a Rosebud thing for him, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and he's brilliant. So he's definitely a flawed hero. Like that's how I saw him, a flawed hero in a culture that is just as fucked as him, but gets away with it because they have all the, you know, sexual harassment rules in the workplace. I mean, even on Entourage, right? So like my relationship to sex was partly cultivated by Entourage,
because that's what the character's lifestyle was,
right? And the more I became the character, the more approval I got from people and women, and the more I started to become that character and live that lifestyle. So I had a different relationship with sex, and quite unhealthy, where I was like, yeah, what, you know, people are so uptight. There's such puritanical culture still. And
I heard
yet,
Dove make these rants.
What's that?
I've heard Dove make these rants.
100%. And I understood him. I was like, yeah, you know, you're honest. You're wearing it on your sleeve. Like people know who you are. So, and I guess I'm a lot more conservative now, and I've found my own pious take on love and relationships.
It's bad for you. Like it's bad for you.
Yes.
Like there's that saying, like fame is a mask that eats at the face.
Yes.
And like anything that is in control of you rather than you being in control of it is this dangerous road to go down. And I think,
and you do hurt people too.
Yeah,
like it's bad for you, but then look at what you're doing to the people around you. And you know, alcohol, for example, is destructive, self-destructive. Yeah. But then it also starts to hurt your family, right? If you're off the deep end.
Yeah.
Same with any vice. And I learned those lessons, and I, come back to center, and now I truly feel like I've been rehabilitated. But I don't know if Dove ever hit rock bottom enough to see himself in those ways.
I remember Robert Greene and I were talking to him once. We're like, Dove, you need like a hobby. Like you need to like run or swim or do something. And he's like, I have a hobby. And we're like, what is it? And he was like, sex. And we're like, sex is not a hobby. Sex is a vice, right? It's not that it's always bad, but sex is a vice. Right. And
at best, it's a thing to procreate with, to make family.
It consumed his life. And what's crazy about Dove, the idea that he didn't hit rock bottom. I mean, like literally everything was taken from, he not just lost the company, but like he owes one of the hedge funds that he used to try to regain control of the company, he owes them $20 million. And like, even then, he's not changed a single habit. Yeah. And like, the world can blow you up, and then you can decide. You have two choices there, right? It's like you can hit that rock bottom, and you can decide to climb your way out, or you can keep digging. Yeah. And I mean, you know, Dove is now running Kanye West's company.
No.
Yes, he's a Jewish man who is running the fashion company of virulent anti-Semite / profoundly ill person. Like I think what Kanye West has done is
they found each other
is unforgivable and awful. and sad, and then also like clearly not a sane, healthy, like something like there's something there that I don't want to say takes him off the hook, but like he's a victim of what's happening to him also. And the fact that they found each other. And I was just talking to someone the other day. I was like, I can't imagine what their meetings are like. Like the two of them, because I'm sure you were around Dub where he would just talk for like 5 hours.
Yeah, he's super entertaining.
Yeah.
I actually started drinking lukewarm coffee, lukewarm instant coffee because of him.
Yeah, Dub didn't do any drugs, but what he would do is, and Robert Greene told me he was doing this literally as he was being fired from American Apparel. He would get a cup of cold water, and then he would open a pack of like a Nescafe pod that you're supposed to put like through a machine. This is like a Keurig cup, and he would just pour basically straight caffeine into a cup of water and then just drink it, because he was in such a manic phase all the time. He just needed it to kind of keep it going, or maybe he may have even been taking the caffeine to come down from his like natural insanity. I remember a lot of times he would just call me at like 3 a.m, and I would realize he was just calling me as he was falling asleep. Like he was so lonely and had so like the idea of even whatever the women he was around, like he didn't actually like them he was just calling to hear a voice so that he would not be alone with his own thoughts for the 2 minutes before he passed out, having been awake for 36 hours straight.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, you just realize a lot of these people that you think you want to be like, you do not want to be like.
Flawed hero, a tragedy nonetheless. Yeah. I wish I could have made that show.
I think so. His favorite novel was this book.
You think he'd give me the rights now?
I don't know. I don't think so.
And that was the thing too, is I was like, Dove, what could I do? What story could I tell that isn't already out there?
Yeah.
6 Ways to Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to tell a more nuanced story about your full range of complexity.
You're going to be the best, nicest person to do it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I just don't know if I could do it now, but it's one of those, 9 unfinished things in my heart that I wish that it would have happened.
He loved the story of Duddy Kravitz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's like shamed for having a boner or something.
That might be the beginning. There's also a movie with Richard Dreyfuss where he plays Duddy Kravitz. It's like a great movie, but it's about this sort of hustling young Jewish kid in Montreal who, like, he hears from his grandfather that like a man owns land. Funny what we're talking about. It's like a man owns land. That was like the mark of success. They came from nothing. And Duddy becomes this sort of hustler. He starts with like arcade games and he trades his way up till he's really successful. And then he ends up like hurting or betraying his best friend to like get the land. Like his friend ends up in a wheelchair. Basically does literally anything to get the success. And then he takes his grandfather to see the land. But his grandfather has heard what he's done to get it, and Duddy can't understand / accept that, like he can't understand that some things are worth more than other things, and your self-respect, your honor, your values are more important than the success. And the irony for Dove to have loved that movie and that story, he'd probably never read the book, he probably only watched the movie, but it's like he only watched the first 2 acts and he like missed the turn where it's a cautionary tale.
Plays the thing, man.
Yeah, it's like missing that Gatsby dies at the end of Great Gatsby. Like he ends up floating in a pool, murdered.
Right.
But all you saw was the cool parties.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's who I want to be.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I always liked, so the opening of the show as I saw it was Dove at 8 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever told you this story. Because he had fashion in his blood.
Is this where he's selling T-shirts?
Selling T-shirts, yeah.
Yeah.
So what he was doing, well, no. He was selling T-shirts, crossing the border illegally to buy T-shirts in New York and bring them back to Canada. Yes. There's that. But no, he was like 8 years old and he was running for school council or something, or president. But they had no hot water in the house. And this is in Montreal. It's freezing cold. There's snow on the ground. So he'd go to his neighbors to take a shower and then put on like a suit to go to school.
Wow.
And run for office, or he wanted to, like, you know, win presidency. And so the opening in my mind was, you know, a snowstorm in like a small little neighborhood in Montreal, and little Dove comes out of the one house, walks down wearing these big snow boots, but like in those like American Apparel tidy whities, like walking to the neighbors, coming up, knocking on the door. Hey, water out again? Yeah, come on in, kid. You know, so she brings him in. He showers and puts on the suit, and then goes to school. And that was going to be the opening of the whole thing.
That's amazing. He told me a story. He was arrested at like 11 or 12 years old selling bootleg Madonna t-shirts outside the Montreal Forum.
Yeah.
So there's some part of him that was like a hustler from the very beginning. That was his greatness. But then ultimately, you know, he can't turn it off.
Yep. Yeah.
There was no part of him that could retire, that could hand over control, that could staff around him like anyone. Like, in retrospect, that I worked there was insane. Mm-hmm. Not that I continued to work there, but who hires a 21-year-old with basically no experience to run the marketing for your publicly traded company? It was insane. Like the whole thing. But I realized that for the same reason he liked to hook up with like these store employees, he hired me because I was not threatening. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And that I could be manipulated and controlled. Like there was a grooming there too. It wasn't the same kind of sexual thing, but it was still fundamentally exploitative. Like when you walked around, like almost none of us had any business working there or being there, because he should have had the best people in fashion working there, but he had us because it could facilitate the sort of secondary purpose of all of it, which was the wound.
Right. Yeah. 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 I get that. You know, you create sort of like lack of accountability in the youngsters you bring in, because they don't have the capacity to hold you accountable. Yes. And they're just happy to be there. And they're like, I'm the head of this and I'm 21. Like, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Hollywood. It's Hollywood.
Yes, of course.
You know, when you're grooming the kids to be, you know, little starlets.
Or you start as an assistant, and then you work, and you see the bad behaviors modeled, and it becomes normalized. So when I left, one of the big parts for me was like sort of just relearning how to be a person, how to be a colleague, how to be a boss, because I'd seen what I thought successful people did, but actually only manic, unhinged, like, you know, crazy people did. Mm-hmm. And so it worked for him in that one environment, but they weren't transferable skills. And it also wasn't like, it wasn't what I wanted my life to be.
Yeah. You grew out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky also. I think so I was with my wife the entire time I worked there. So there was a whole set of behaviors / world that I was not only not interested in, but not invited to, you know, like Dove wasn't like, come stay at my house. Like, you know what I mean? Come stay at my house. Cause he knew that, like, both I appreciate that he respected it, but he probably also sensed something in me. He was like, this isn't someone that wants to participate in my extracurricular activies. So I never got sucked into it in the way that I'm sure was in Hollywood. There wasn't like, we have to protect Adrian. No, you were sucked into the very world that you were fictionally portraying, but it wasn't fictional. It was your actual life.
Yeah. And there's a lot of reward in it, you know.
Sure.
That's designed to keep you there.
Well, that person's probably easier to control, easier to take. Like if you're living outside your means, if you're in some sort of oblivion / you know, like not taking, like they're like, go here. Like you're easier to do stuff and to not question stuff and to not, it's like if you're too sucked into the present moment, then you can't think about what things mean or where you're going to end. You know, you can't think like big picture.
Yeah.
So did you just get up one day and walk away, or did it did someone end it for you, or how do you?
No, I had to say no. I called my agents, and I said, and I was in tears. I wept because I quit acting. I said, I really respect you, and I don't want you to put any effort or work when I'm going to not take anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, because in many ways, acting wasn't something that I had to do. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I was just doing it
because you're good at it and got paid for it.
I got paid for it. I could be the man instead of being a man. And so all the ego things and all the it was something I had to reject fully before I'll act now. Like I can say no now.
Yeah.
Now I know how to say no. So I'm open to acting. And by the way, in our neighborhood, there's like,
they film shit all the time now.
There's like a hub here.
Yeah.
So, which is going to be great because I say no to so many projects now because it takes me away from my family. Yeah. For extended periods of time, or the content. Like I want to do. I only want to do like things that I would be proud of for my kids.
Yeah.
My wife was like, "Do you think we'll ever let our son watch Entourage?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's like giving me a headache just trying to,
hopefully
get my head around
17. That.
Yeah. There's going to be a point when I'm going to have to, share with my son where I come from and who I am, and the things I've done, and how I've overcome.
Sure.
Just not yet.
Yeah, of course. What is it like to be famous?
You should know. Come on.
Nah, that's not the same.
No, why?
No. Authors are famous in a first off, because only with a small fraction of the
You're
population.
New media famous.
Social media famous it is interesting and different. It was weird for me also because like a lot of it happened during the pandemic. So like I was like not around, like life was different. So like my level of being recognizable was going up, but I wasn't in a position to be recognized.
Interesting, yeah.
And then when that's changed, then it was like, oh, whoa, it was like accumulating, but I wasn't experiencing it. So that was a little bit disorienting. But you were famous and you were playing a famous person. Right. So that must have been, there's
a thing called
interesting.
A pure celebrity, right?
Yeah.
Where you're famous for being famous.
Yeah.
So you have like, the Paris Hiltons of the world and whatever. And in many ways, I was a pure celebrity because I was famous for being famous on TV.
Oh yeah. Right. Extra weird. Yes.
So, but anyone who's famous has to deal with that. They have to confront that reality. And I at one point after I made my film Teenage Paparazzo, which is basically me figuring out what it's like to be famous and what the hell when I woke up one day and people are like standing outside my door taking pictures, of me, like paparazzi, it's just something you have to confront. It's like, holy, what is this? What is going on? Why me?
Yeah.
And I think you see varying degrees of celebrities dealing with their fame.
Yeah.
And they deal with it in different ways. So the way I dealt with it is I made a film and I humbled myself in some ways. So I was keeping myself on some level, giving myself perspective.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, indulging in it. But I think a lot of times any famous person they need to believe their bullshit. They need to believe that they're somehow special. So they will do everything they can to maintain that status.
Yeah.
And they will surround themselves with yes people who confirm it.
An entourage, if you will.
An entourage of people who are like, keep going, yes. And they will reject people who want to call them out.
Right.
Or hold up a mirror. And when I had my transformation, I had to uncouple with people who we had a mutual neurotic friendship, you know, like, and we were sort of indulging each other in a lifestyle. Sure. And they benefited from me being famous, and I benefited from them, you know, supporting that lifestyle. And so I lost a lot of friends.
It must be weird, right? Because you sort of are famous, but then you're playing someone who fame is such a big part of what that character is and that show is.
Find a culture.
So you're having to think about. You're having to think about both what you're experiencing and a level above what you're actually experiencing. So it was probably one of the reasons I imagine you were able to get out is that you had kind of an ironic distance from it in a way that if you actually were that character in real life, you wouldn't have, because it would have been all that you knew. You weren't thinking about what it was like to be you.
I remember I reluctantly took the part.
Yeah,
you know? I remember when they came in to tell me I got the role, and for the first time someone called me Vince in earnest, because now I was the guy who I hung my head. I was like, oh man, this, because I knew it was going to be successful, and I knew I was going to have to deal with all this stuff. And it was funny. It's a funny story. The HBO came to me and with an idea, and they said, hey, how would you feel about us calling the character Adrian?
Ooh.
We'll name the character Adrian Grenier instead of Vincent Chase. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting, that's curious. I liked it as an idea, as a concept. And I was almost going to go for it just because I thought it was a cool idea. And then I realized, I was like, I will have no separation from this character if I do that. Zero. It will be me. I will be it.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, thank God.
Yeah, sure. Even just that tiny difference was probably allowed you to jump in between two worlds.
Oh yeah, big time. And just it was meta as fuck, to say the least. Yeah. You know, and I think part of the way I adapted and the way I processed it was creating more reflections, more layers removed.
Sure.
You know, by revealing it, by pulling the curtain back, showing like it's all just fake. This is not real. Like I'm just a guy. You know, and that kept me honest. And like you said, you had an idea of what Hollywood would be like. Yeah. When you got there, I thought I was gonna have a house on the hills. Yeah. Overlooking with the starlight. You know, the night. You know, the speckled
LA at night.
LA at night. I was gonna have a nice car, and I'd be driving through the hills of Beverly Hills or something. I saw that. Yeah. I ended up living in Los Feliz. I lived with like a bunch of guys, not like entourage guys, but like friends, like roommates. Yeah. And we lived really just low to the ground, just cool, like hipsters. Yeah. And because I drove a Prius, you know?
Because it wasn't actually as lucrative or glamorous as you thought, or because you chose to live that?
I chose that. Right. I always, like, as lost as I got in the lifestyle, and it was really more like my relationship to sex and women and attention. Yeah. I always was leery of fame going into it. Like, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this whole fame thing, which is why I was in Mexico doing documentaries. So I always made documentaries. I always played music. I always just tried to just maintain my ego to some degree. I did, and I really believe that I didn't get detrimentally. I didn't like Dove Charney. I was able to get out of it.
Sure. Does fame fuel ego, or does ego seek fame?
I mean, chicken and egg, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I think it's funny right now, because right now I'm ranching.
Yeah.
Wrangling snakes, and, you know, being a family man, living outside of Austin. Yeah. And there's still a part of me that feels a little inadequate. Like I feel because I don't have the same attention and accolades that I once did. And attention is very seductive and very addictive. Yeah. And so there are times when I feel like a loser. I feel like I am not successful because people aren't telling me you're doing good. Right. Yay. I saw your show. And so that's something that I see is built within me. And that maybe that's an ego thing.
Yeah.
Where if I'm not getting that attention or those accolades, then I feel like I'm a failure.
I got to imagine, like, if you grow up feeling seen and valued and enough, you probably don't seek out any of the professions like the ones we have sought.
Well, I think this must be my father thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because my dad bounced.
Yeah.
So, that's my wound.
Like, I feel like if I had felt understood, I probably wouldn't have spent so much time trying to figure out how to articulate and explain and communicate what I'm feeling and thinking. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd just be a regular person or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have sought out. Yeah, I wouldn't have sought out the means that I make my living by, because I wouldn't. One of the things it does for me, I wouldn't have needed to have done for me.
Well, and we're all glad you suffered in such ways because we like you.
Well, thank you.
We like what you brought us.
But if you're like someone who got enough attention as a kid, do you seek out a profession that is fundamentally about attention? You're like, I'm good. Just like, I'm sure, like, if you grow up never needing to think about money, you're probably not like, I gotta go to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, make my fortune.
Yeah, and I look at it from like a permaculture, natural systems point of view. Like there's tension within us, and there's certain driving forces which may be neurotic or trauma based. They drive you. Ideally you don't have trauma, but at the same time, it's that very trauma that composts you into new life. So I try not to be dogmatic about one way or the other, but I appreciate my journey. I'm so happy to be where I'm at, and I wouldn't trade it necessarily.
I was reading about this species of I think a conifer tree or whatever. It's in Canada, and it's like pine cones. Mm-hmm. They only become like fertile or can grow a new tree if unlocked by temperatures that are not naturally present. So basically, only fire allows it to germinate and grow. I'm probably using the wrong terms here, but the idea is like the forest fire isn't destroying this species. It needs the forest fire to unlock something in it. And that's probably true about some forms of like creativity or ambition or whatever. Like ideally you have a childhood or a life that doesn't subject you to the forces that unlock whatever that is in you. Just like whatever the primal forces required to like kill in a war or, everyone probably has that, but only circumstances draw it out from a person or cultivate a specific kind of person into like the warrior life, let's say. I think there's probably something about certain kinds of childhoods or certain kinds of experiences or moments in time that draw from someone these kind of certain callings.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about Daily Dad?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So our series Man Upright is about men's work and being a better father.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes, this is such great. So you wrote a book called Daily Dad, which is basically just daily meditations from Stoic tradition on how to be a good father.
Yeah. So, or a good parent.
A good parent. Yeah. There you go. Well, in my case, good father.
Yes. I mean, I call it a daily dad because I'm a dad, but the idea, like daily parent sounds weird, but I hear from lots of women that also read it. That's what I'm saying. But.
So do you find, it's a great book, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm halfway through it probably. It's by day.
You should only be like, well, maybe you're reading.
No, I skipped ahead.
But you're supposed to only read the day's date.
No, I skipped, right. So I skipped, I've read like, however many days.
Whenever it came out.
A couple months worth.
Yes.
But what was I going to say? So do you find like, so you wrote the book, you get it, but are you able to practice those? Like, do you find that you're able to actually embody those ideas, those philosophies, that wisdom when you're in the moment with your kids?
Well, I would say I wrote it to practice it, right? So when I wrote the Daily Stoic, I found that not just writing the book, but then doing this, I've done the email every day since 2016. The process of taking a minute every day to think about like what my values say or what I'm aspiring to be like or what the greats have been like is this wonderful sort of meditative intention setting process. So then when we had kids, I had this idea like, I wonder if doing a parenting version of it would make me a better parent. So like the fact that more than one person reads it is like gravy for me, because the process of doing it makes, not just has made me better, but makes me better, which I hope implies very clearly that I'm not good at any of it and that I'm trying to get better at it. So like, I'm not writing the ideas like this is what I have perfected, but it's more like, here's something I'm thinking about, or here's what the ideal is, or here's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'll give you an example. I was just talking about with my wife, like, I heard someone smart say like, don't tell your kids to be careful because that's a meaningless thing to shout. What you're saying is, I'm worried, I don't want you to get hurt, which is not, it's just true. That's your emotion. That's where be careful comes from, because you don't want anything bad to happen to your kids. But that phrase doesn't provide any value or instruction, right? Like, be careful is not a thing you can be. So you should actually say something like, hey, what's your plan? Like, hey, try to, put your arms out when you're on this, narrow ledge, or hey, don't go so fast. Yell out some sort of actual instruction or value add. But like yesterday and every day before that, I find myself instinctively saying like, be careful when my feral animal children are doing dangerous shit, So, right, so like, I know what I should say, and then I catch myself saying the wrong thing. And then I try to go, okay, now that you've shouted this meaningless, warning, try to actually like help in some way. So it's like, I guess what I'm saying is it's a process for me. And I hope what I found with the study of Stoicism is like, when I first read it, when I was 19, versus what I was putting into practice when I was 20, versus what I was putting into practice when I was 25, versus 35. It's actually not incremental growth. It's logarithmic growth or exponential. Right. So it compounds with time. The longer you do it, at some point you start to actually see the benefits and the returns.
Right. Because I mean, you're essentially an expert in Stoicism, right? I mean,
I would say I know the
foremost
philosophy
intellectual
well.
Of Stoicism of our day.
I know the philosophy well. I would not say I am an expert Stoic. Like, I make that distinction between the practice and the understanding.
But you are meditating on it enough that you start to internalize it, embody it.
Yes.
So that when you look back over time, you realize, oh, wow, I'm actually better than I was at 20, better than I was at 30, and so on. Yes. I don't know how old you are now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's what I found myself is it actually took me multiple years, several years to become the man that I am today, so that I felt like I could be a good father.
Yes.
Because instead of telling the kid how to be or teaching them the Stoic philosophy, if I could just be it,
sure,
they will just through osmosis absorb and feel it embodied in me.
I was talking about this with Samantha the other day. She said something like, the most valuable skill a person could have is the ability to appropriately deal with frustration, because life is frustrating and shit goes wrong and it's never the way you want it to be. And most people are really bad at dealing with frustration. And there's really no way to teach how to be good at dealing with frustration to your children other than getting better at dealing with frustration. And so just the process of understanding what you're going through, trying not to be the person that you would have been a year ago or 10 years ago. And then also when you make mistakes or you don't do it the way that you would have liked to do it, to be able to communicate, reflect on, apologize for that. That's how you teach your kids how to do it.
Or like in your relationship with your wife, like how you show up for each other, how you work through conflict, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so to bring it all together, what do you do about media and your kids? Something that we're talking about a lot. You know, we have not, you don't share.
We don't do any pictures of their faces. We decided that at like day one, even though like my profile is much lower than, I just found like there was something first off kind of ethically wrong with like signing up for your kids for this thing that they didn't sign up for.
Yes.
But I also know, like, when I think about what you think when you're posting on social media, like, I hope people like this.
Yeah. I
hope it's popular. I hope I get validation.
Right.
You know, I hope I get approval. I hope this grows my account. Like all those emotions, which social media is designed to exploit in both individuals and famous people and brands and whatever. Yeah. I felt very uncomfortable with using my kids to get something out of that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, no one's really responding to what I've been doing lately.
Cute kid.
Call in the baby.
Yeah.
You know, I just decided we weren't going to do that. And I think it's been great from a privacy standpoint, but much better from that's not a component of our relationship with our kids. We take lots of pictures of our kids. Could we probably be more present generally? Sure. Everyone could with their phone. But the pictures we are taking are for us or for people we know very well that we are going to share with directly, or it's for them. Like my son fell asleep 2 nights ago. He wanted to watch the iPad and I didn't let him, but I did, you know how your phone, you know how the iPhone, like it makes like slideshows for you of memories.
Sure.
I was like, let's watch like when we went to the beach, let's watch last year. Like we watched memories together. Like that's what I'm taking pictures of, not for the Facebook algorithm.
Right. And what about exposing them to media? Are you, and it's hard. I don't even know if it's possible.
I don't think it is. And it certainly wasn't in 2020 when we couldn't leave the house. And there was this idea of like, we also have to work. How do you, like, so I think you're lucky in that you missed that with your kid. I think talking with parents who have kids the same age as ours, there is definitely an extra element. The screens are already addictive, but I can tell my oldest has, when he is stressed or afraid or feels overwhelmed, there's something about the screen that is magically soothing and
we all know that,
because that's what it was for him when the world actually was scary for that period of time.
Yeah. I did not grow up with iPhones and screens, and I got my first flip phone in my early 20s, like 22. I can't imagine these kids, but at the same time, genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
Now we have AI. What is going to happen? And how do you model for your kids as a dad, as a daily dad, Stoic?
Yeah.
Their relationship to phones, and what would the Stoics say about phones and such?
One of the things we try to do with the phones is like, I try to connect it to life, right? So it's like he's watching a YouTube video about somebody going on a road trip, let's say, or whatever. I go like, we can do that. You want to go do that? Like, so like there are lots of things we have done in real life that he has learned about from the screens. So like when we try to introduce him to stuff, or what we're letting him watch, it's not just people playing video games, but it's people doing stuff in real life to then inspire us to go do stuff in real life, right? So I think, to me, that's the relationship I had with the internet when I was a kid, right? It wasn't this immersive, all encompassing thing. It was more like learning about stuff that you didn't know existed, and then going and further down that rabbit hole. We try to do that a lot. But I think one of the reasons I continue to read physical books at home for sure is like I want to make sure my kids see me doing that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's no complaints with reading books, right?
Yeah.
It's like, read as many books as you want all day long, forever.
Yeah.
But there's something about the screen
that feels different. And it is different, but it's also not different.
It is, because the medium is a message, right? So it's like just uniform. Like whether it's educational or entertainment, it's all the same action, the same experience. There's not like the tactile, visceral experience of smelling an old book or opening it or having to actually. I think it's very different. In your internal, conversation where you're like challenging yourself inside and having to work at participating, because you're participating when you're reading, because you're also imagining what it is, as opposed to just purely being a consumer and being told, as a passive consumer.
True. I mean, one unique experience I've had with my books is like I hear from lots of people that didn't read a lot before they read my books. So they didn't think they liked books. They didn't grow up reading. And then, somebody gave them an audiobook or they watched a YouTube video and then came and read it. And so like I have tried to work on, I'm a physical book person. I mean, we're surrounded by books. I have a bookstore. I love books. I think books are the greatest invention in like the history of humankind. But I try not to be snobbish about it. And I understand that different people have different journeys and different ways of learning. And so like let's say it turns out that one of my kids is not that way, right? Like they're not a person who reads by learning. They learn by video or they learn by audio. Like I am trying to be relaxed about the different ways that we come to information. The same thing, I've talked to people who didn't read a lot as a kid and then they fell in love with it later. And so just also understanding that like people are on their own journey, and that if you try to force or mold someone into being a certain way that you think is the only way or the best way, you'll probably not only not succeed, but you'll probably do damage. Like you'll probably push them further in the opposite direction. So like one of the things, like finding out that my son is like very interested in, let's say, YouTube or the specific YouTubers or whatever, I've tried to go like, let's think about who this person is. And let's not just think about them as this thing on a screen, but to talk about how like they're an entrepreneur and this is a job and they have a cool job, which is like this person plays video games for a living. Like that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. You couldn't do that as your kid. And so like I have tried to like meet my kids where they are with this stuff, as opposed to projecting or judging.
He likes Slack.
Slack?
Is that what that is? Oh.
He likes Minecraft. He's obsessed with Minecraft.
Right, but I mean, watching people play Minecraft.
Oh, yeah. He loves this kid, Beckbro Jack.
Have you ever done that, by the way? I mean, you must have.
But played
just like watch people play.
Yes,
it's extremely compelling.
It's it seems insane that it would even be remotely interesting, and then you realize no, what's actually fun about it is the same reason it was fun to play video games as a kid, which is not so much the game, but the ball busting and the jokes and the narration that's happening as it's happening, plus the immersiveness of the world.
I'm going to send you a YouTube channel of a guy who basically takes games, like video games, and he cuts them together in like a philosophical, like what's the word? A paper, like paper.
Okay.
Like a little philosophical diatribe using video games. So it might be interesting because there's deeper wisdom and ideas. Essay is what I'm trying to say. A philosophical essay using video games.
Yeah. You know, there's a big YouTuber that lives out here. I'm forgetting his name.
Really?
He shut down.
He shoots over here at.
And he like shut down all. He did something with like kids stayed up all night and camped out on the street. I'm forgetting his name.
So it was a Mr. Beast guy.
Yeah, Mr. Beast guy.
It's a Mr. Beast guy, like a
guy
associate
in the universe.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. I think he lives in Elgin.
Yeah, we punch above our weight over here.
Well, I think there's only like 10 of us, so it's a small club.
That's enough. That's enough.
Who's the other actor that lives out here? He's in the Marvel universe, I think, or the DC universe.
Zach.
Yes.
Zach Levi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you met him?
I have. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I guess there's Elon also.
Elon's on his way.
Yeah.
Just don't dump.
Don't dump
treated
shit in the
water
river?
into our river, please. That's
yeah,
all.
of course.
Yeah, I was. Maybe we should keep that conversation for after cameras are off. I definitely want to. There's a lot of development around here, and I have been actively reaching out to developers to offer my permaculture design perspective.
Oh, that's cool.
Because if they're going to do it anyway,
Yeah.
might as well put a bug in their ear and be like, hey, how are you dealing with water? Or,
Sure.
What are you doing with wildlife? And
one of the things I've
trees.
noticed about here that's kind of changed how I think about politically, like it's very hard to build in Austin, right? Permitting is hard. There's zoning is bad. So there's a lot of NIMBYism in Austin that has made it extremely expensive to live in Austin. Like the house that I bought in East Austin, right? It's like one of those, it was because there was somewhat permissive zoning. Like somebody bought an old house and turned it into 2 little houses, like smaller houses, because it's hard to build apartment complexes on, right? It's hard, even though people think Austin's blowing up. Austin has San Francisco level zoning restrictions that are very exclusionary, ultimately have very racist origins. Like the reason you and I were able to live in East Austin is that the zoning was less restrictive on what was previously the segregated part of town. So Austin thinks, hey, we're protecting the environment by not allowing people to build and being restrictive. But then when you drive from Austin to Bastrop, what you notice is trailer parks and crappy houses and all sorts of things where as soon as you cross over the line, it is permissive. So Austin thinks they're preventing things from happening, but what they're actually doing is just bulldozing the beautiful land that's here, right? So instead of somebody being able to build an apartment complex that has density in Austin that would then lower prices and make it affordable or reasonable for people to live, they are essentially creating like shanty towns and ghettos in this county. And that's kind of changed how I think about things politically, as I'm a pretty liberal person, and you think, hey, this is the right thing, but you don't understand how it's actually externalized. Like you think you're protecting the environment, but you're actually harming the environment. There's the same thing, like they wanted to build like some low cost housing down the road here, like on the other side of town, that's like next to a tire shop. It's not good land at all. But a bunch of people were like, well, I don't want low income housing, right? And so they all got together and they shut it down. Right. And those are people who see themselves as good people, as people who are stewards of the land,
not in my backyard. Community.
But they don't realize that those people are going to have to live somewhere. It's just going to be in a worse place than that. Yeah. And
so I'm going to send you a deck of what we're doing at Kintsugi.
Yeah.
Kintsugi Ranch is, our
name.
Property. And we're essentially developing the land, but not for density, but for nature.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So we'll have a number of people living there, but one thing that we are considering is who can afford to be there, and what kind of apartment, what kind of houses are we going to build?
Yeah, sure.
So that we can have as much range of diversity of humans, both low income and people who can afford a little bigger place or whatever, and also the demographic of people who we're inviting in, because when all is said and done, we're going to have a community of 30, 35, 40 people,
right,
living and working there. And so it's kind of cool to have your own little canvas to your own little canvas to develop and zone and create, so that's what I like about this neighborhood is I have a lot of
control and
leverage to do that. A lot of leeway, I meant. So
have you been to Community Village or Community First Village?
Yeah.
The homeless thing?
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And they're building like 3D printed houses out there.
So Icon, I'm talking to them because we're building a chapel on our property.
Oh.
So I want to do a 3D printed chapel. And I got a lot of ideas. I'm going to show you. I
would love that.
I'm going to enlist you. I don't know if I can do an interview with one of these in my mouth.
Oh, I just put it in the side. I suck on it. It has caffeine in it. It
does have caffeine? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's not lukewarm water, but how has being a parent changed you? It's only been 2 months, but how do you feel like you've changed?
Well,
I feel like a lot of your change was leading up to it, which is better.
I made the choice to change so that I can arrive for this moment.
That's very beautiful.
So I don't feel like I'm playing catch up.
Sure.
I'm really just settling into what I've known I wanted.
Yeah.
And like deep down inside, the little boy in me who sort of abandoned my romantic, I was a one woman. When I was a kid, I told my mom, I'm a one woman man.
Yeah.
I'm 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then I ended up becoming a fucking
Vinny
playboy,
Chase.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like the disconnect. So I really came back to my true nature. It's like I'm married, so happily married. My wife and I are getting along so well. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this. The girl who dumped me to set me flat on my ass, my rock bottom, I ended up winning her back, and we got married. So Jordan is the chick, who basically slapped. I say it like cosmic bitch slap, karmic bitch slap.
I had a moment like that.
Yeah.
When American Apparel was when Dove was fired and I came back and we were trying to turn the company around, I was this ball of stress, and my identity and my life was so tied up in work. Sam and I were fighting all the time, and I remember she was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I remember thinking like, am I going to lose this person we've probably been together like 10 years at that point. Am I going to lose the person I've been with for 10 years that's like made me better in all these ways for like a consulting gig at a company that's like, I didn't even start, that at the end of the day, like, I don't even care about, like, and by the way, like the double whammy was like, I'd already written 3 books. Like I also had my other dream that I'd achieved simultaneously. And meanwhile, like I'm fucking in an office all day. This is insane. And so that was like a huge wake up call for me. So sometimes you need that. Like, I think sometimes people think being with someone they go, I don't have time for relationships, or I'm focused on my career, so I can't be with someone, or I can't get, and you don't actually realize that, yes, being with someone ties you down. But if you're an ambitious or even somewhat egotistical person, like what it's actually doing is tying you down to planet Earth, like to reality. It's like Dove desperately needed to be married. He needed some counter ballast to prevent him from being all one thing. And so it's actually been a sort of a huge advantage.
And women have a knack of revealing yourself to you and pushing you to be better. They'll call you out when you're not being your best, or when you're they'll just I see my wife as the oracle. She's the navigator.
Yeah.
She's like, you're going the wrong way. Turn left, turn right. Okay, yes, honey. Like, okay, I'm on.
Sure.
And like, I can just drive, go straight. That's and take orders.
We talked
not
about
in a bad way, but
we talked about saying no earlier. I think 2 ways. Having a spouse makes it so much easier to say no, because you can be like, I know I'm biased here. You tell me whether I should do this. Not tell me whether I'm allowed to do this or not.
Right.
But you know my values, and you know our values and our values as a couple.
Right.
So as a less interested party, make this choice easy for me. So that happens a lot.
Yeah. And there's a deep knowing. It's a felt experience. It's not, intellectual, or you're not rationalizing something. They feel it. It's
the greatest thing that having kids does is it gives you perspective. Like, you find out how much tolerance you had for bullshit before, that when you have kids, hopefully you no longer have tolerance for. Like, I have in my office, which you may have seen, I remember you recorded something on my desk once. I have a picture of my kids, like a picture of my oldest, and a picture of my youngest, and then in the middle there's a sign that just says no. And the reminder for me there is not no generally, but that when I am saying yes to stuff, the random shit that comes in my inbox, I'm saying no to these two people. Wow. And that when I'm saying no to things that I don't need to do, I'm saying yes to these two people. Lovely. And there is something magical about how understanding people are when you have young kids, because they know what it's like and they feel guilty about the things that they did that they shouldn't have done when they had kids. So they leave you alone a little bit. And they give you space and they're tolerant. And so like, that's one thing I tell people is like, milk this for all that it's worth. You know, like my kid is sick is a magical excuse. I can't, my son has a doctor's appointment, dance recital, you know, we're going on family vacation. Like I got to be home in time for this. Yeah. That was, I remember, do you know Casey Neistat? He's like a huge YouTuber and great filmmaker. But I remember he did me a huge favor one time. I asked him if he wanted to do something, like go to dinner, and he goes, "I don't miss bath time." And that was like, I didn't have kids yet, so that felt weird to me. That felt like something like, I don't know, that like some gendered stereotype that like somebody else does, like that the wife does, or that like my dad was never home in time for bath time. That was not his role in our family. So the idea that this person I respect, whose work I respect, is like, I don't miss bath time, was really helpful to me and very practical. Like the idea that like I get home at night and I'm a dad at home, like that's my job, has not just kept me out of trouble, but it's just eliminated even the consideration of a whole bunch of things that ordinarily you get asked to do. And it wasn't like an overnight thing. It took time and I've made mistakes and, you know, sort of waffled, but like that idea of like, I get home to do X or I don't miss X. These are great, like hard and fast rules to practice as a parent that make you, by having the rule, it makes you the person that you aspire to be. Yeah.
It's a container in which you can be more free in many ways.
Yeah, like I remember I was talking to some very rich dude and I was telling him some version of this and he was like, no one would believe me if I said that because like they know I have staff, right? Like they know, you know? And I was like, that's sad. Like that sucks. Like I try to drive, like I'm the one that drives and a lot of the times picks my kids up. Like that's my job. And that's not a thing I'm ashamed of. It's like a part of my identity, right? Like I like it. I'm proud of it. I like that I'm successful enough that I can make my own hours, that I can drop my kids off and pick them up. Yeah. And by making some of those choices, you can put yourself in the position to be the parent that you want to be.
Well, we're very happy that so far we haven't used a night nurse or nanny or anything. We've been very just her and I. Yeah. And you know, we're blessed that we can be, but also we're blessed that we chose to do it. You know, we made that choice to become the people that could hold that.
And look, when I say these things, I try to stipulate that I'm not judging someone who can't do that, especially people who have no choice, right? Like they literally have to work this amount. They work in an industry where maternity leave or paternity leave are not
everybody gets to decide how they live their life.
Sort of, but also like look, if you came to this country as an immigrant escaping persecution and now you have to work incredible hours just to keep your kids in clothes, I'm not judging that. What I am talking about is people who have way more than enough and then tell themselves they're working for their family that they don't see to provide things for them that their kids don't need, when actually what their kids have asked for is them. Like how wealthy are you if you can't afford to see your family?
Yeah. Yep.
That seems like it. Like to me, having a very busy schedule is a form of poverty, not like starvation poverty, but that's an impoverished way to live. Time is the most valuable thing. So how much time do you have to do the things that are important to you? One of the tricky things about writing is that as you succeed, you have more and more impositions on your time that take away from your ability to write. And so for me, like somebody gave me this advice once. His name's Austin Kleon. He's this great writer. He said, work, family, scene, pick two. Like your career, your family, or like the art scene, parties, events, you know. He's like, pick two. And, you know, I know which two I want.
Damn.
Yeah, you can't, because you can't have it all. Nobody can.
Well,
have it all.
I might be able to actually.
Okay.
So, I'm building a community, right? That's my work.
I think if
so my work is the scene.
Yes, but or
gotcha.
if they live on your property, if it's community at that level, we're veering close to some form of extended family at that point also.
Okay, fine.
Right? Like you've merged it together
yeah.
in a way that is, you know, different than like I get, this is again a champagne thing, but people will be like, oh, like we're going to Italy for 2 weeks, and I'm going like, cool, I like my kids. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, hey, we're all going like heli skiing in British Columbia or something. I go, that sounds cool, but like I like my kids.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm so happy where I am, and by design, I, you know, want to be able to merge my work play time together so that I can be with my kids to, and I say kids because I plan on having more.
Sure.
I love it, man. But yeah, you have to design your life in that way, you know, and that takes a little bit of thinking outside the box and the courage to try it a new way.
Sure.
I feel so deeply grounded, and there's such a relief. I was always chasing, like always having to go somewhere, always having to be somewhere. It's like, and now there's just a calm, you know, and my son is, I can't wait for you to meet him.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Do you ever worry that the future you will regret things that you turned down now? Like sometimes, like, so let's say I get an offer to do something. I go, I don't need it. I want to do this. But I sometimes go, yeah, but will Ryan 12 years from now go like, I really could use, we could use that now.
I'll be honest, I'm not making as much money as I once did. So there's a part of me that's like, oh, are you gonna regret it? You're gonna run out. You're gonna be impoverished. But I keep reminding myself, I can always live in a camper.
Yeah.
In the backyard. You know, I can live low to the ground. I can live, you know. To me, I expand to meet my opportunities and to live beyond, you know, just the material, you know, goods that I have, and so I can live small, I can live large, and so I have that range. So I don't think I'll regret it, because if I ever dwindle down to a place where I feel like I'm struggling, I know I could sell some stuff. You know, I can always do some. I know I have the capacity to earn. Yeah. But I choose now to be present with my kids.
Yeah, there's a confidence in that too, where you're like, I earned this stuff, not like there's kind of like an imposter syndrome that comes or that goes along with creative success, because it is so unpredictable, and you do know people that, you know, their career falls off, but there's this sense that like you didn't deserve it, you didn't earn it, didn't have anything to do with you, so of course it could be taken away.
Shut up and be thankful.
Instead of going like, hey, like it was through savvy and skill and hard work that I did this, and even if it gets taken away, I still have most of those skills, right? And I will say, like, having the ranch and doing stuff, like anytime like I work with, like, it's like someone's replacing the floors, I go like, you know, and then they say they're going to show up and they don't show up, and then the job was supposed to take 2 days, it takes 6 days, and blah, blah. I go, I'm confident in my ability to learn how to install floors, right? Like if everything were to go to shit.
It'll probably take you 6 days.
Yeah. But no, I was going to say like, but I also know what I have that I could bank on if things went to shit is like, I do what I say and I show up and I don't cheat people. You know what I mean? Like I go like, it's not that I could do anything, because there's some things I can't do, but what I'm saying is that like part of that fear when you have creative success is like rooted in the idea that that's the only thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. And when you've done other things and you have kind of a self-sufficiency.
I can always mend fences.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I can do a lot of other shit.
I can always bring in money. I can always live well if it's on a smaller piece of property, or if it's a smaller house, or it's an apartment share, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The important things are presence, love, family, community, and I rest assured that all the stuff and things can go away, because they have.
Yeah.
And still find, peace and happiness.
There's Seneca, who was a very wealthy man, which some people thought was a contradiction between, sort of philosophy and that there was a contradiction between being successful and being a philosopher. And he said, no, there wasn't. But he would practice this exercise. He would try to practice poverty like one day a month. Like he would slum it, eat bad food or go without food, wear crappy clothes, or walk the streets, not being Seneca, right? Not in a wealthy Roman would have an entourage and the bodyguards, and he would just walk, as a regular person. And the exercise he said was to get to a place where he could say to himself, is this what I was afraid of? And not be afraid of it anymore. Because that is the paradox of success, is that we think it will make us more secure, but it makes us less secure because now we don't want to lose it. Now we're afraid of going back to how we were. Right. Even though we were perfectly happy, or we survived perfectly well before we had these things. Once we get them, it seems inconceivable not to have them anymore.
Yeah. The things you own you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or the status, like but when you can go, hey, we went on a vacation. Instead of staying at the Four Seasons, we stayed at a motel on a road trip, and it was just as fun. You go, oh yeah, I can afford these things, so I do experience them, but I don't actually need them. They're not part of who I am. I'm not dependent on them. And so to have that ability not to be afraid of some different way of life is kind of a superpower.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it's part of manifestation is to uncouple yourself with the goal and to be grasping and clinging to it and really let things flow. Energy flows, in nature. When energy is stuck or stagnant, it breaks, or it's missing from the it creates a knot in your body. And then same with money. Yeah. I think wealth is an energy that needs to flow, and if you're held on to it too tight, it won't bring abundance. It'll actually bring the opposite.
Yeah, and a lot of people have abundance, but still their mindset is scarcity.
Yes, exactly.
And that's, again, not a particularly rich life.
Right. You can have all the things, but still feel like you're lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, and that's definitely common if you were getting the things because you felt like you were lacking. Like you thought, hey, if I have a Ferrari, then I'm an important, cool person. Like if you were trying to get the things to be a person, as opposed to just being a person who likes some things.
Take away the Ferrari, and there you are.
Yeah, if you identify success with your success or your status or your possessions on the way up or when they're good, then you, by definition, are afraid to lose them. Mm-hmm. And everyone goes through slumps and transitions and down periods. Yeah,
it's how you, your resilience and how you actually get through the down times is what creates your character.
Yeah.
When things are easy, it's like, yeah, okay. But can you knowingly overcome adversity? That's the important thing. And I have confidence in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And stripping things down and getting up close and personal with them is a way of cultivating that kind of resilience.
And back to death, the meditations on death. It's like that is the one thing that we will all have to confront one day, and to practice that and get good at it. So when it does happen, you can do it with ease and with courage and grace.
Also, I think meditating on death strips away a lot of the pretension and the significance of these things that you're chasing. It's the great equalizer. And this is why it's helpful to go like, what would I do if I found out I had cancer? You'd immediately stop caring about 80% of the shit that you care about.
Yeah.
And the truth is you do have cancer.
Yeah.
Like you do.
You will die.
You will die. And so the idea that you're like waiting for it to become real,
right, or
like close to it, it's silly.
Yeah. And letting go of all the material things one step further is just letting go of the material flesh, this body, which is temporary.
Well, and I'm sure that was part of the experience of the sort of rock bottom for you with your now wife, right? Like, so you're arguing about things, you're fighting about things, you have these disagreements over priorities or how things should be. Then you lose that person, which is a form of death, right? It's the death of a relationship or a death of a future that you had taken for granted. And in an instant, none of those things none of those things are important anymore. And so much of what we argue about or fight about, there's an arrogance to it. There's an arrogance that you have forever, right? That's the sort of immortality delusion that we have. Or there's the arrogance that like the relationship can bear an unlimited amount of mistakes or stress or entitlements or whatever it is. And then suddenly you are reminded of the precariousness of either of those things. And you go, I was just pretending. I give up on all of it. It's not actually important to me at all.
Yeah. It's true.
Anything else we should cover?
I'm good. I think we should just keep doing this more often.
Yeah, let's do it.
I do want to come to your ranch.
Anytime.
Yeah. And
is yours? Mine's kind of ugly right now. In this, like the only reason I was thinking it was better to do this here is that that's one thing I found during the pandemic. This is like a funny thing was like, we bought it in April of when was that? 2015 maybe. But the point was, it was amazing. And then, you take it for granted, right? It just becomes normal. That's where you live. But like when the pandemic shuts down in March of 2020, I realized how few Marches and Aprils I had spent at that place. Cause I'm always traveling. I was like, it was experiencing the beauty and the perfectness of it, because that's the best time of weather in this part of the country. Everything's green. It's not hot yet. And you're just like, oh, this is what it's like. This is why I fell in love with it. And then we are in the ugliest part of the
throes of a drought and hot heat. Well, no, I mean, look, we'll wait till it gets pretty for you. Anytime. But I mainly want to just get to know you, your relationship to the work and nature.
Maybe you can come help me fix some fences.
And yeah, I'm down. We'll do that. Seriously.
No, anytime. Yours is fantastic.
I'm sending you this deck because
please.
Well, I'm going to ask for some support.
Okay.
I won't do it on camera so that you can say no, but
no, sure.
You'll see what I'm up to.
No, come out. We're just hanging out.